we'll be able to do that. And that's my main objective, is to give it to the people and let them decide. Because I think there is, I guess we can get information from the Government Development Office. I think there is resolutions coming from all 5 agencies requesting this. So it's really coming from the people. And I've been getting called the last 3 years asking when this is going to come. And some of them get very direct about it. And so, but finally, we're going to present it to the people, let them decide what their wishes will be. And so that is the reason why I'm presenting this legislation to the council, to see if we can put it on the referendum for this coming election. My intention was to get this done in the chapter officers election, and by now we should have had the answer whether we could continue with 24 or 48, and that would have been very appropriate. We could have done the apportionment plan already, and we would have been working on as far as the elections for this upcoming election, but that didn't happen. So, but at least it's going through right now. My intention is I'm working with the election administration right now to give me a special election date. If it is possible to get this done before this upcoming election, then I will be doing a legislation to get additional funding for the election administration to have a special election to do this particular referendum. And I think there's 2 or 3 more that's going to be coming through. And if we could have a special election before the primary election, then we would have so many legislation that will go on the ballot. So I'm hoping that I can take this through the process so that we can either have the special election or take it through the next election process. That will be my presentation now. And I don't know if there's any, I'd like to give some time to Mr. Dwayne Crank from Government Development, and also from Rosita Kelly with Navajo Election Administration. Dwayne, can you provide some information?
Mr. Crank, you can go ahead and provide this committee presentation on the legislation.
Madam Chair, thank you so much for the recognition, and thank you so much for giving me the time. Honorable Winika, thank you for the requests again, and actually the Law and Order Committee, thank you so much, and people who are listening in here. Again, my name is Dwayne Crank. I'm a policy analyst for Office of Navajo Government Development. And I started with the office here in last year in March. So right when the pandemic started, I transitioned into my position. And so I've been playing catch up with a lot of the portions that I've been working and trying to find more research studies in regards to this legislation. And so if I've been working with a former policy analyst by the name of EJ, who actually did the majority of the work before I got there. And where this apparently stemmed out from was an actually report from our former executive director, Mr. Roundhorse, who did a survey back in 2017 and asking about the current relationship with the current delegates in regards to representation and services provided by them in regards to their meetings and whatnot. So in that report, as I understand, it was a council delegate effigy report. And in that report, it stated that the majority of the people who answered the report, and they were given, it was just kind of randomly given to in person. The staff would actually show up at the chapters and provide ask questions in regards to what do you think right now, how is the relationship between the delegates, and the majority of the responses have been they felt they're underrepresented by the delegates, because the delegates who have more than like 3 chapters under them feel like they're kind of spread apart and spread thin in regards to how much services they provide, or any reports or anything to that effect. And they EJ was telling me that that's how this whole situation started, saying maybe it is important to increase the delegates so representation can kind of even back out again. They wanted to follow up another survey back in 2020 again, but of course the pandemic happened, so a thorough report was supposed to happen, and so that by our former policy analyst EJ John, and he was not able to do it. He was not able to start on it, and so that was kind of put on the back burner until this whole situation started. So they wanted to know exactly, specifically, where are the shortfalls and underrepresentation from the delegates, and how to address these issues. But again, though that survey was never done because of the pandemic. And then there were situations where we wanted to revisit regionalizations and to those effects, but see how regionalization, these chapters would help in representation through the delegates. And a lot of that time, some of the information that we were gathering is like, well, it kind of focused back into, well, if we do regionalize, it's still going to affect the amount of delegates needed to represent the regionalization of these chapters. So in regards to that, those are the reasons why we favored a delegate increase from 24 to 48 and representation, an equal amount of representations for the people and that effect. So I am currently working in providing a full report for this, and from the Office of Navajo Government Development. I did wanted to try to have it for the law and order, but right now I am still working on it, and I hope to have it as soon as possible for the Law and Order Committee to review and read, along with our favorable view of the increase of legislation from 24 to 48. I stand for any questions that the committee may have. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. I believe there was another agent that was also asked to speak. Miss Regina Kelly?
Yes. My name is Rosita Kelly. I'm very new to the election administration. I started my work as the executive director back in September 13th, 2021. Nishleniki e not otenet kachin ado shi bashin ado shi dashe do tedeshkizni dashanale kut ae sanin loop de nasha. And anyway, according to a very preliminary meeting that I had with my staff, they, according to them, VRS is the voter registration specialist, they've been in those positions for a long time. So their expertise is that, just the voting, what's feasible, what's not. So they're the ones that come up with the timelines according to Title 11, that's the election code, and timelines and so is it possible? Is it feasible? No. So to get a special election, so according to my VRS's February, we can meet the timelines and primaries. So that's what I'm reporting on right now, and we're working on a draft of the timeline right now. So should report. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So with that, Delegate Juanica, does this end your presentation?
Yes, that's my presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. So with that, committee members, we do have legislation 0251-21 that is before us at this time. Committee members, do we have any questions or any comments on this legislation?
Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Otto So, you have the floor.
Yeah, kodo hey, shinan kodo bez ani kodo ni dati nin so the legislation 0251-21 and then nike ya adolando asto aj hanti khani golayan yani sakhi so hot go bez ani ba khare to ni ya di the basement ani gi the windows ni na tin only you know be for this legislation that's before us. I'm sort of thinking about how Congress has the rules in the Constitution and the articles there that pertain to the governing body, and Congress, they have I believe it was a two senator per state mandate, and I believe it cannot be increased after that. And then you have the representatives, the House of Representatives, and that is based off of population, and then the districts. And the interesting thing, the Navajo people went forward to reduce the Navajo Nation Council, along with creating the JMAT, and the JMAT is what was determined to the current delegate district area, legislative district. It was based off of population, and I think it's very easy just to say, hey, let's just increase it by 48. Let's just increase it by another 12 again. Let's take it to the people. Let's increase it by another 12. 88 kids. I believe the Navajo people at the time, when they did their increase of voting or signed up to reduce the council, a lot of the animosity was there of the struggle between the legislative branch and the executive branch that was really not clear. Things that are in the code that is still not clear, and you get the two branches in a little but when you look at what the law says, the law indicates that the council is the governing body of the Navajo Nation. Like, for instance, you guys all see what's going on with this struggle between the two branches, and there's a lot of things that are not answered, and our judicial branch has not weighed in yet on a lot of these things, such as the line item veto authority. Honorable Juanica spoke to something earlier that really catches my attention. If the voter initiative, the ballot, the petition initiative was short by a little over 2,000 voters, is the 24 Navajo, is the 24 council legal? Meaning the amount. Could it be 88? Should have been. Or the line item veto authority that the executive branch always claims that the Navajo people gave me, Nika, any president, I heard it since the Shirley administration. The Navajo people have spoken and gave me this initiative. So therefore, I'm going to use my line item veto authority. Oh yeah, yeah, not this. Alcohol. If those two items were, how can I say, did not have the actual amount of signature required, that should be one of the questions posed to the Department of Justice in our legal. But in the midst of increasing the council by legislation and getting it to the people, I think easy, which I hope it. And maybe we go back to the drawing table, and have the input from the 24 delegates. I know you had this so at times I would have that conversation with you. But, if we go back to the drawing table and allow increase to happen by population of the census, the census count of the United States Census Council will dictate whether a certain region of the council or a certain region of a legislative district may get another delegate. Help out that delegate that represents that current legislative district. And it's more, how can I say, but if we just say we're going to increase the council just because I represent 5 chapters, or I represent 8 chapters, or 7, 6, the referendum happened, and the population threshold was 8,000, and we go back to the drawing table and say, hey, let's go and use the population threshold, or maybe increase it to 8,000. 8,000, from 8,000 citizens counted in the population in that legislative district. That would dictate if so a person would have, a region would have 1 delegate under 8,000. Anything over 8,000 up to, but using 8,000 people margin, they would gain another delegate. But the help is there at the populated area. That way, the increase is based off of the people, not the chapter, based off of the people. So for instance, when I came into the Navajo Nation Council, there was one chapter that had 35 registered voters. That number probably changed now. And when you look at the population data on the internet at the time, I believe it said, I think it was 269 people. And when you look at Title 26 again, Title 26 clearly talks about the establishment of chapters. 1,000 people threshold. That 1,000 people threshold is population. Yeah. There's some chapters out there that don't have the 1,000 people threshold, but you have chapters that have the 1,000 people threshold. And is it fair for a chapter to have that equal footing with less population required and the requirement? So I'm from Cuba City. I'd say maybe about 10,000 people. And maybe another chapter in Western Agency that has, use the current population data. And is it fair? No, it's not. Because chapter is being but you have a chapter that's obeying the 1,000 people threshold. And I think if whether we move forward with this legislation, the Navajo people is probably going to vote it down. But I think if we put together a plan to say, hey, let's take this plan to the people and say, by every 8,000 population base, a region would get a delegate. And so, for instance, I don't know what the population is in, let's say, this is a small chapter. I think if we go back to the drawing table and rework this out to a point where it's based off of where it's a population-based driven, I think that's where the Navajo people will at least get our support. Because there's those communities that has less people out there. And a lot of them live in the larger communities or the larger communities of that district. It's either that they're living in an NHA home because maybe their living circumstance back at where they're or they have a home site lease in a large community, have an approved lease, but they say, oh, we're from this chapter. The population base, they're counted at where their home base is at. I do support this referendum pitch. I think we just move forth with and approve this. It's okay, and let's see how the Navajo people will vote. But I think they're gonna vote it down. And I think the bigger thing is that how do we get their attention to bring them to the poll? And with other ideas to give to the people through the population-based, population-driven increase of the council is something that I think we will get their mind, we will get their attention. So la oyaga anjano la yeda this on. That way, you know, these areas could you know, the increase will happen where it's really needed, and that's based off of population, because any federal funding that comes down the pipeline is based off of population. Even in Navajo, we get funding in abundance, but when we go to Washington, we preach up there to the Senate, to the representative. Oh, we're the largest tribe, and we have this many people, and all this that you need. But when we get back to the reservation, I always say we start to contradict ourselves. When these fundings hit the tribal banks, these funds that were based off of population driven, these populated area are the funds shown, but these dollars are supposed to be based off of the funding, off of population. And when it gets back to Navajo, that's what we should be funding, based off of population, because that's where the Navajo people choose to live. That's where they choose to make their livelihood. Look at Winter Rock. Winter Rock is in the chapter of St. Michael. Uncle Ado Fort Defiance, so Hashinto, so other details. Uncle the Benal in Coco. Winter Rock, other one, the tribal homes, the NHA homes, and I guarantee you, if you went to every NHA home and asked them, and these tribal housing there in Winter Rock, they don't vote there at St. Michael. They're going to, like the division directors, they're voting in their home chapters. Population based, and that will help that community gain a seat at the Navajo Nation Council. But I think if we just move forth with this, I think the Navajo people is just going to shoot it down. That's just my thought of this. And we really have to show to the Navajo people, if the chapters really want this, we need the chapters to get out there to vote, or to spread the message on this. The election office, though, Navajo government development. These studies that you spoke about, I wish that we can, if we can, get those documents to the committee so that we can start reviewing this, because this legislation is destined to BNF, it's destined for NABI, and it's destined to the council. What I would also suggest to Mr. Chache, Honorable Wanika, is that we have a work session pertaining to this referendum, and to get all the information, because to clear up a lot of the cloud that's going to be posed there. And I think then the other component too is that Honorable, there was a delegate that was is actually moving forth to, or he did indicate that he's going to sponsor the regionalization legislation. And how will that coincide to this 12 to 24? We need to make sure that we don't have that, because the regionalization is speaking to the chapters. And if the regionalization legislation is posed to the Navajo people, I think the increase of council is actually nullified. That wouldn't be a question. That would regionalize all the chapters into one. And but I know regionalization legislation is not here. But if this timeline is vetted out by the election administration, I'm sure it's going to come up pretty soon to regionalization, because the larger communities in the here for myself, Mr. Mr. So, Eugene So, and Madam Charles Newton. We're already regionalized. We have one chapter that has over the population base of 8,000, and that is what was the base off of how the JMAT was created, and that JMAT spoke to the legislative district, and that's what the Navajo people voted to approve, the JMAT. I believe there was maps that was created from A to Hashin Zache, and the JMAT was the map that actually was suitable for that way. Right now, the JMAT dictates to the legislative district. So,
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Delegate Yazzie?
Yes, Madam
Yours.
Chair, members. Just for quick, Madam Chair, my phone is dropping in and out, but if I get dropped again, I vote green for this legislation for the record, okay, Madam Chair?
Thank you for that. Delegate Yazzie. Sherelle, Lorraine, did you get that information?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. And just an FYI, we do have Delegate Vince James, who is on the line, and we also have Chair Daniel So that has also joined the committee meeting as well. I'm going to go ahead and ask Chair Daniel So, are you on the line? Chair Daniel So, *6 if you are on the line. Perhaps he jumped off the line. So with that, committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time regarding legislation 0251-21?
Delegate James here.
Delegate James, thank you for joining the Law and Order Committee. The floor is yours.
Madam Chair, Ado LOC, den has es tani do isen on time. Ado na nationale honorable Edison Wanika. Kodo legislation hitato. Ning so sto ade bayast ki Oko shikodo bahnatis kito lehiki. Eya di that hata la eya kodo government development. Government development hata la eya na adikit line hiltahos atla. Oko the kuina hada on hallen nal sos betahas onegi general on kastat that the thought na khadin na khada that's it ada alias leko oko o hot out instau quat en hallen ako that's nana tle ada government development it has ande na adik hidden living hidden that's it but nana tle ako eke shesezin do Bana adish kidole. Beninan laho na ho nilt an nachapike. Ako nana di not sospita to aje ajihiki danish on to aje la neto to del nista. Bije ete ye laye aje ta na has ta government development aje bije ete ye la do ye la ta sle en de la do atra government development ta holonda okolats eda la khayla a yese ye ho edo bilba hozen lansond kodoban sis case oko shisize do altot a chinale ye khazi it a honorable also work session Iliago that's at ayat chokot oko title 2 jito ato ajito committee ajinit long oko ato hajon hitato nit eta title 2 has anjeko oko ba na oka liniki holong oko hajo ni hedena ba atilni oko hot shesizindo ban sis case ado ani ito asahla hadzi election officer tasitano oko February no oko that's ina kinna de zito ahilne akwaigila ado hajo nihilche hojna adala sto edo akwaigi bahna atish kido leko di na kinna de zito that's a ban saha case jokot out to bahna atish kido leko ado shi bekedo na adikit lini shena hotlon dole ekot out itra na adel kido leko.
Thank you, Shanella, Honorable Vince James. So with that, we do have some comments, some concerns, and also some questions that have been posed to the presenter. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor back over to Delegate Wanika. Delegate Wanika.
I'm having problems with my phone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Honorable Aruso and Honorable Vince James. Appreciate the questions. In reference to Honorable Aruso, a lot of the comments that he made were just that, comments, and his ideas, his concerns in reference to this legislation. And it seems like there's two items that he was talking about in reference to redistricting and then also apportionment. And most of the things that he was talking about was in reference to redistricting. And that for sure is just really based on population. Apportionment is the same, but in a little, it's just a little different in reference to how we do the apportionment. And the Navajo Nation only has an apportionment process, doesn't have the redistricting. And so, and based on the reapportionment, we did the reapportionment for the 24 council. And that's how we came up with that number that he's talking about, the 8,000 threshold. And to reapportion the 48, the same thing would happen. It's just really based on the number of chapters, number of delegates, and then the population. And so we just reapportion the number of chapters would get to that threshold number. And that's how we put the numbers together. It's not based on the growth of the population as far as redistricting. That's how it's done. Like if what he's talking about, if we was going to redistrict if we all had districts like we do now, but it's based on apportionment. It's not based on the number of people that live in that district, even though it's apportioned by that, but we already have a number, 24. So if we was going to do redistricting, then we could just increase where the population growth is. Like in Tuba City, if the threshold was 8,000, if it went to, let's say, in order to add another delegate to that, let's say it had to be 16,000 or more, then we had to look at that, and we would increase the district, make it bigger in order to get that number, or maybe we might have to reduce it if it was way over the 16,000, and then that would make it so that there will be another delegate added. But we don't have that policy. We don't have that law in place. The only thing we have is reapportionment. So that's the reason why we just look at the numbers. And even in our laws, that's what it says. In order to increase the number 88, the only way that it could be done was to do a referendum, and that's what we did. But it's really specific to an initiative, and that's what was tried, and it didn't get the numbers that it needed. But it was the Navajo Supreme Court that told the election administration to put it on the ballot. So that made it so that it's like saying, one of the things that we can say is, let's do it right. Let's redo it. Just like Delegate Otto is saying, I have a problem with that too. And at the time, it was challenged by the President Shirley's office, even though we told them that it was over 2,000 signatures short, and they challenged us, and we went through the process. And the Office of Hearings and Appeal went ahead and agreed that the signatures for the two items was over 2,000 signatures short, and it was appealed to the Supreme Court. And that's where the gray area is. We were just told to put it on the ballot, and I don't really have a specific information on what the rationale was used to put it on the ballot, but that's how it went. So based on that, it's like, let's put it back on the ballot, make it right. But I know 88 is a high number. I don't know, maybe we're talking about work session. I think the better thing to do would be just to put it on the ballot, because to me, it really belongs to the people. I know we're the policymaker as far as Navajo Nation Council is concerned, but what's going to affect the people, all 110 chapter, if it's going to affect Navajo people, then we should give it to the Navajo people. They're the ones that should make a decision on this. And going through the process, and I agree with Delegate James, that the people that were in government development, the people that really went through the process of asking the questions are no longer there. And I wish we could get specific information from them as far as how many chapters they went to. I know there was supposed to have been resolutions from all 5 agencies, and we need to see the results of those. And so I was hoping that all the information was there. And so with all that information, I know it will make a difference. But I still wish that we could just let the people decide. And if they vote down, like what Delegate So is saying, if it's voted down, then we can maybe go to a different process, as far as maybe we can start, establish the districts for the Navajo Nation. As far as the council is concerned, maybe based on that, instead of doing reapportionment, maybe then we can do redistricting for the chapters. And so there is some question, but now based on what the law says, that's what I'm basing this legislation on, is just to increase it from 24 to 48, just like the decision was made to decrease it from 88 to 24. And the reason why 24 was chosen is because 24 in previous years, that 24 won the election. There was 7 numbers put on the ballot: 110, 88, 72, 48, 44, 32, and 24 in a primary election. And then the two top vote getters was 24 and 88. And then that 24 and 88 went to the general election, and 24 won by a 2-to-1 vote. But at that time, there was a supermajority vote that was required. Majority of the registered voters had to vote for that initiative, for that referendum, in order for it to pass. And majority of the registered voters didn't vote in that general election. That's why, even though 24 won by a 2-to-1 vote, it didn't meet the threshold that was required. So it didn't pass. And that's the reason why when Joe Shirley decided to reduce it from 88 to 24, he said 24 is the choice of the people based on the previous election that was done. So the extension ni od never John Holia is idan kidoni to kwaiki. Tati there's ani bikaho nishit out e bikaho 80 hatilia. Ni if we're gonna go by population and then we have to go to a different process. Delegate So is talking about by legislative district, senatorial district, so that and then a redistricting in Darna based on the growth of the population in that particular district. Is it all portion a number of chapters, number of delegates that's being proposed, and then population I think I responded to both of the questions from Delegate So and Delegate James, but I will go ahead and give some time to Office of Government Development. Maybe Dwayne has additional information. Thank you, Chair, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Wanika. Mr. Crank?
Madam Chair, thank you so much. And Honorable Wanika, thank you so much, Honorable So, for the comments, and then also Honorable Vince James for the questions. Yes, in my research of this information that I was bringing forth, they did want to actually do another survey, and they wanted to back in 2020, again, like the pandemic happened, and they weren't able to provide that or to do those initial surveys and research into the wanting to increase the amount of delegates. And in regards to that also is that the initial report that was given was back from 2017. And from there is a lot of questions that stemmed out of it, and then see if the possibility of increasing the delegates was more the plausible one. And then in that sense is to how much, and then what areas would be more affected. Right now, when it comes to cost efficiency, I think that was another thing that they looked into also, was that by regionalizing the chapters, would it help with increasing the number of representation on the delegates? And that they wanted to see that, and that kind of balanced out in that way. But those are something we're continuing to look into. At the time when I switched over, that was something that they were trying to do, but we didn't get into it because of the pandemic, and kind of just put back on the back burner. Right now we do offer we want to continue that. As me as a policy analyst, I do want to push that forward and start that work and see what we can come up with. Right now, all the things I'm working on are like prior reports and prior listening sessions, and the chapters that actually answered. And to Delegate Wanika's request for the resolutions, I'm still in search of those. The former director and the former policy analyst, he gave me some information, but the former director is one who actually had all that information, and I was never given that information. and I've been requesting a lot of the information to be provided, but through the files that he had, and I haven't been able to get those as of now. So I've been kind of just working on what I have in prior reports and to that effect. So I've been just seeing what I could do in regards to this for Honorable Wanika, and I think I've answered that portion. I do agree a work session could work, but as Delegate Wanika did say that this is something that should be brought to the people. That is something that I think also is plausible, but I do think education in regards to this is very important, especially when and going back out there. I do agree that we getting in touch with the chapters and making sure that they are aware of providing the correct information to why the increase is important and representation, and mainly also at the same time, if it is possible, do regionalization and see how those two could go hand in hand. And but those are the things I would like to do more research on again, but that's just from the Office of Navajo Government Development. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, this is Delegate Wanika.
Thank you for that, Mr. Crank. Delegate Wanika.
Yes, there was one other question by Delegate Vince James in reference to the timeline. He was questioning on February. Maybe the Navajo Election Administration can respond to that. Rosita Kelly.
Ms. Kelly, you have the floor. Ms. Rosita Kelly.
I'm right here. This unmute and mute it and *6 is just getting me confused. But anyway, Madam Chair, Ado, Delegate James Nathan Kitiki. Yes, that's in 2 months. February be we're saying the VRS is, like I said, they're the ones that work with these timelines all the time. Every election timeline, so, and I trust their judgment, their expertise in this area. So it is in 2 months, and the latest would be March, and the earliest would be the first week in February or the second week. So if we can come up with the special election go in February, the earliest would be the first week in February, the latest would be sometime in March. So I hope that answers your question.
Does that conclude your answer, Ms. Or does that conclude the answering of the questions that have been posed at this time, Ms. Rosita Kelly? Or Delegate Wanika?
Yes, that's our response, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherelle, can you mute 010, phone number 505 ending in 010? Thank you. So with that, committee members, before I proceed forward with any more questions, I'd like to ask the Delegate Otto So and Delegate Vince James if you have any follow-up questions at this time.
Vice Chair is okay with this, or I don't have any follow-up questions. I'm sure we'll have a broader discussion at NABI, and most likely, hopefully, we do get a work session because, you know, o bchbidni go aro joban so eskeze istan kide donni ola obohni ade dati nati I think the idea behind increasing the delegate is rational, but you know, as it gets before council, and if council approved this, if we approve this, you know, we need to make sure that we have all the nitty gritty on the inside of this legislation, even though it's simple. But be going at the case abi sala to 80 bang in don ham ya ti ho ko na aya e hin na ta ti ndo ko ado hati aje na ido hati aje that they can vote. But if we just ram it through and give them something, you know, then they're just going to say, hey, yeah, out of job on so this kid. That's what happened with the transportation stimulus package. This as a Oban Saha Kisi transportation stimulus package was just ramrodded through the council, given to the people, and the people voted down. And all they said is, leave my money alone, leave my trust fund alone. But when you get back to your district, people talk about roads, my roads. And that was one of my discussions with one of my constituents, that this transportation stimulus package would have paid, improved this many graded roads, paved this many roads on the Navajo Nation, but you voted it down. Oh, we weren't told that. So it comes down to that. We need to get the nitty gritty out so that, you know, we actually need to put some deep thought into this, even though the election administration and the government development did is working on their due diligence, but because we represent the people directly, and yes, a chapter resolution, 40 resolution should have been in order for a lot of these things too. So, and go on mute.
Madam Chair, this is Delegate Wanika.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair Otto. So Delegate Wanika, if we could hold on really quickly. I'm asking at this point if Vice Chair Otto So and Delegate Vince James have any follow-up questions. Delegate Vince James.
Madam Chair. Yes, I do have a follow-up question.
The floor is yours, Delegate James.
Nana, Shanale, Honorable the Edison Wanika, Ado Ade Nat Hana Zigi, go Hada Salt Zigi. Kodo should a Kodo Bahna Dish Kit, Hala a be should the net and Linegi a Yina should the dot kill. At the redistricting ban alte for Arizona at a heat ye gon da this kid ako shisa do kodod a hit a hoda should ne belch ehst to le jok shisa do it abances case ako do hono go do skin so ne go height ya koje bel ken di ka jokot ko o peso ella o ben nada di ne jokot elto hajot koje bayat he donald sosel ke no tahola hot ala na hapo honetza akot donald ada john he ade chapters de do nego tatnas nele son nel de ade do nego jokot ne bilt ako hot a nin hezad the nepohol niti niniki e hot abil khanana nila e bilt e dolis adedi ba hatten late o halit elat o la hala hot chokut a e shisizin do kodobansas case ko ado kodoba hajoban sanazi case or to ha hat egila e ilne dolisla ajati kodobesh ma sa ane benane nelde hat egi hat egila tsetala hat eheki eya ilne dolisla ako nihilban hozen dit hatnas nelle na has tani gin de a hot abe biche hat nihida kodobesh ma sa ane ni tleniki ako nle chapter de quietly kot ati de kot hot ni hot jneho micromanaging hot ni adonana abelaho anajo ni nato ethic and rules rehwe na sosako ako tsedala hat ehikila ya ne ako a hot do le shisezido a hot ensen dik adat ehit au ajan kodo besh ba sa anasa banane nelle a kunan hit ni do lis ni he besh ba sa anato date ida ni he besh ba sa an hajishin iya a hot outside na dits do lis ako tsidala hat ehikila is nesla ako donde yugo sa hot donde ni a slachet na halodo don hije edil ida sto at the chapter level ako had egila do lisla and so that epansis case ako anal so stina at the kid lenigi dash height on that kid back in 2017 dan so bansis case ako do ado jo sahot ended 2017 ade it never had that higi registered voting members at teacher cotton his horses the isahona hot sahona to the never had that higi ako okwaki do halit au kodosh the nebe na hatishnetla ako dinan so sto la betahas ogo la do ya shoda jokonanat ade oshil taho ago anana la di February go ade ya an be it is nis na do no ko akos di hat ibnen hitato na so jo February go benaho ale na kinna de zit ade benaho ale di she inen hitato katsel sos at sadat in late February ki ade dat it's a hati adaho ni ade otza go dat in the dinat a ban di khata dan so banses case ako di kodo land order committee motion ishla do table ishla go until February dini do that's it do nilde hajo di be has ani big ahla ni kliniki na baka inas na diskesh jo konanat ko ako ajan work session ilian de dishin ahot bahna dil kidiki ahot ahana hat eho to hat anat an hit hana do session then also spaha then do kodat government development the do senelta on hit that no hot ona do shin ako do hot inat ha o zi benina adishne ako ala ani in hit na be bohol ni don hit na ani aji ya do asin de hajo na tin had adi let's educate the public, let's educate our people. Jokot ado bahanetse ko ako tila abahaten ako halit kodo shishitene but had the shahidi bichotish asla halit ya koje ani 48 adults ni ani tota beti na tin let it be at 24 haji la kot na shite kido kodonat be hati sihiki la aba haten oyo ada win and o hola go I don't know that Elo dan Lego government development go holne. Asian Bilbahosen, Elo da di large ning so the honorable Edison when ni carpet holne. Hat ni go do the sni go jo do bilt da kot out ko. Hajoya di de hala about upon it no. Jonen so shizin do banses case ako. Halit au iliado ayat eto lehla ada ad banses case kodo ako. Ajan, if I even make a tabling motion, this legislation will still continue and move forward because we took action on it. Koto banses case Joshi odat iban denishtra Joshi hado nil jokot eltoko. Of course, Naleta Honorable Madam Chair, Kodo Shisazido, I'd like to make that request to make a motion to table this legislation and to keep it at LOC legislation until February's plan. Let's see how the outcome is at how they're discussing and planning for to meet the February deadline and the timeline for that. So with that, I'd like to make that motion. Shanale, Honorable Madam Chair, Eugenia Charles Newton.
Yeah, Shanelle, regarding your motion, we don't have final authority. It does go to Budget and Finance and then to Nabi Kiatske and then to Navajo Nation Council. So at this point, I do not believe that we can table it to keep it here at Law and Order Committee. Do we have Legislative Council on the line? Lorraine, can you get somebody from Legislative Council on the line?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me? This is Lauraline.
Yes, Lauraline, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. I had a little trouble. Yes, I believe you're correct. Let me just pull up my rules really quick here, the Standing Committee Rules of Order. The chair is correct. The Law and Order Committee is not the final committee, final approval committee. Let's see here. It should move on to the next committee because Law and Order is not the final approval committee. And it's not specifically stated in Rule 18 under the Standing Committee rules, but that's the order. That's the way it has to work because of the fact that the final committee has to be able to hear the legislation. And Legislative Council has opined in this manner several times before. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Lurleen. So with that, Shanella, Honorable Vince James, I'm sorry, but I can't accept that motion at this time only because we are not the final authority. I think that motion can be made at Nabikietske to ask that it be tabled there, but it cannot be done here at Law and Order Committee. Honorable Vince James.
Yeah, it's not Madam Chair. I think Hajo be Khansa Kesi Gishi Benachita Kot Ahoto Nisli Zinde John de Dokoto Konanet Eda Ko. Ani di because ani do hajo ke on cart dante. Ako hot ela ko o shiba na o kahit edo list if you guys can provide those documents to us ASAP. That would be very helpful to the 24th Now Nation Council on how determination was made to get to this far, to get to those numbers, and then to also provide the copies of the surveys, the questions that were asked, and the time that it took place. I believe those all should be a packet, and I believe those should also be included as exhibits to the legislation. But if we don't have those stuff and we don't have those items attached, there's no suffice of us going back to our people to answer their questions that they will eventually have for us. But I still would like to know, in regards to my question, is where is it that we're going to fix the problem? And how is it that we're going to resolve a lot of these issues by increasing the number to 48? And I just want to know what information do you have for the delegates and the people of where it will resolve a lot of issues to increasing it to 48? And what is the priority of it going to 48? Or is it going to fix the problem? That I would like for an answer. Thank you, Shanala, Madam Chair. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Shanella. Honorable Vince James. Are there any other committee members or any other delegates who would like to speak to this legislation?
Madam Chair?
Vice Chair, the floor is yours.
Yeah, the other thing too is I really like what Honorable Vince James spoke to pertaining to where is the problem going to be fixed if the referendum is granted. And that is, I had a chapter meeting yesterday, and a lot of the question, there's particularly a question posed to me, and it related to the chapter's authority, and it related to the executive branch's authority relating to direct services. And I think as a comprehensive approach, we need to look at where can we fix the problem? Where is the bottleneck? Because if we increase the council, how is that going to better improve the government structure in the area of direct services? I don't think it's gonna make the home site lease go faster through the process, or something going on at social services that need, it's not going to improve that service. Hey, go. At a comprehensive approach, but Mr. James, Honorable James, tried to table this, and we're not the final authority to this committee. So, therefore, I think without asking, I think with this vote it down. That way, when it gets to the council, it is, you stand your ground on the questions that is being posed, because you're right. If we do have this general election or this referendum election, where is it going to improve the livelihood of the Navajo people, the Navajo citizens? I don't think it's going to improve it. It's just going to add on more of what's going on. It's within the tribal government, but alone increasing the council is not the solution to improve the government structure of the Navajo Nation. So I think we still have a lot of work to do to get back to the drawing table and to look at all of these avenues, these views, so that we could try to get the area where we could try to improve the government structure. Oh, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. Committee members, are there any other questions or comments concerning this legislation? Not hearing anything, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor back over to Delegate Juanica. Delegate Eugene So, go ahead, the floor is yours.
So hey, yeah, I saw Tony. I feel like I always talk now, so my people in the universe can hear me. Even now, but I'll talk English as much as I can with my boarding school accent. Okay, now first, I was kind of trying to figure out what's going to happen with my legislation that's going to request for only one committee as a whole. That was my question, but as said, I reckon, like my Analyst said, we can vote it down. And then another question I might have would be, if we do table and second and table it, even though it goes forward, just for the record, would it go forward? That's what I was thinking too. But I favor, the people's vote. But in this case, there's needs to be more, because it has went through a lot to become what it is now, 24. A lot of litigation, a lot of lawyers got involved, and etc. So in this case, it is good to upper the 24 to 48. That would give me at least 2 council delegates in me, because I'm holding over 500,000 registered voters over there. Besides my sit right there, this has got the biggest chapter. It would help us out in that area. But other chapters, they have more, but they just have that distance across the chapters, not the people. So even Mexico, I was just thinking that maybe that would really help out, because I was thinking about one legislation one committee as a whole, because most of my chapter is covered with RDC and Health and Education Committee. I only have a little bit of piece on the southeast side where the police station is, and the courthouse and correction. So by the chain of command, I'm kind of trying to help my people there. By law, from the RDC legal counsel told me I don't have much to say in their committee. I can just listen, and they have final authority on some areas within my chapter. So what can I say if they have the final authority? So that was the reason why I was kind of thinking what would happen to my one committee as a whole. I shared all this. It said, Corona we hospital, so shared all Edison and I had anything on you. So hopefully something will come about. In council delegate. But I could all hospital. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Shuja, Delegate Eugene. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the presenter at this time, Delegate Juanica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Honorable Aruso and Honorable Rich James, to Honorable Eugene So for your questions and your comments. And I think it was mostly comments now, with the exception of Eugene So wanting to know what it will do to his chapter. Will he get 2 delegates or what? That will probably be determined when the reapportionment is done. But I just want to close by saying I appreciate the OLC addressing this legislation, just in respect to the comments that was made by Aruso, making it sound like this is the first time that this is being addressed. I went to all 5 agency council meetings more than once addressing this when I was doing that initiative to increase the council from 24 to 48. And I went to 57 chapters and collected signatures from 57 chapters. And I had so many people that were helping me, but not enough because we didn't have the funds. We didn't have the number of petitioners to go to all the chapters. And 6 months was the time limit. And the 6 months came up and we just didn't have enough. I think we came to about approximately 32,000 or something like that, many signatures that we got. And so it was 5-6 years ago that I did this, and I went through the process. That's when I realized that doing an initiative is the process is an impossible law. And so the only way is just to give it to the people by referendum so they can decide. Could I said bayat to hunza hol just that could actually from council need plenty ishi what we present to the people gay we're fully aware of that. But what other delegates are presenting gay like the dojon hit thousand deal attend dojo ban that would also ban see case. They do what ada data is a job by Yaki. To the net and Ningi, I initiated the initiative gave the petition net I said to be ratala. Joe, as I base of had loaned, just looking at President Shirley's office, a base of had loaned, they had the resources and everything there. There's that you any that you don't 6 months is laying that you hit a jet in. Could the net without that so baby how you can participate in the government without a bigger. You can change laws by getting enough signatures for whatever law you want to change. But no, that the nation is that it will be rata. Could the smokeless Navajo Nation they just couldn't. So finally, they just had to go to the Navajo Nation Council for that. According to that, they yet never thousands or about this case. I could let them decide to about this case. And then the she all legislation gay presently other she and can hold it or lishin hold it or based on it lenge. A cohon so it all closing remarks or let's go here now.
Thank you for that, Delegate Wanika. Vice Chair Otto So had to get off the line really quickly. He is going into a no, I guess he doesn't have a reception, no reception zone. Lorraine and Sherelle, just FYI. But Delegate Vince James, do you mind taking the chair at this time? I do have a few questions myself regarding this legislation.
Yeah, additionally, Madam Chair, yes, I can take the gavel.
Thank you, Shanella, Honorable Vince James. Delegate Wanika, thank you for the presentation and then also for this legislation. I understand that you're basically just wanting to put it forward to the people to vote on. I know that I have asked several times with enterprises and then also with government development to properly educate the people on legislations that are coming forward where the people are being asked to vote specifically with a referendum. And I know that we have some upcoming projects where I think that the people do need to get involved in, as far as, you know, we have to get an idea of where they stand on certain issues. However, there doesn't seem to be any any of that educating going on. So my question to you, Delegate Juanica, is what is the plan for educating the people on this referendum? I think that as delegates, we often speak and say that our people didn't understand, they didn't understand what they were voting on, or, our people, they didn't know what they were voting on. And I've met some elderly people who don't ever remember voting away the discretionary funds. And so we do have people who are asking, when did we vote on that? So I find it pretty interesting, but we don't really have, aside from government development, nobody is really, is charged with educating the people on this referendum. And I think it's a very important referendum. And I agree with you that it should be up to the people to decide on whether they want to increase their council from 24 to 48. I also agree with Delegate Otto So regarding the chapters. A few months back, I did ask for a document on the total number of registered voters. And I can say that for the Northern Agency, Shiprock, in the last election, Shiprock had 4,708 total registered voters who voted in the last election. And then you have, different numbers coming in. Rock Point had 1,152. Red Mesa had 1,129. Aneth had 1,413. Sanasti had 1,375. Hogback had 1,173. So the numbers were shared during that time with the number of voters. And as we know, we've had debates where I have asked this question multiple times. As council delegates, do we represent the chapters or do we represent the people? Because if we're looking at if we're looking at chapters and we're saying that one delegate has 5 chapters, that delegate may not have the same number of registered voters or the same number of population than somebody like, representing Tuba City, Chinle, or Shiprock. And so I think earlier you talked about, how a delegate might have multiple chapters, and that's one of the reasons why you're asking for fair representation. But I guess I'm a little bit confused. Are we as delegates looking at the number of chapters that we have, or are we looking at the number of people that we're representing? Because there's a big distinction in that. If you counted all 5 chapters of one delegate, it's not even half of what Delegate Eugene So, Delegate Otto So, or myself have in our community, or even as registered voters. There is one chapter that has 25 voting members. So I think in terms of educating our people, that does need to be shared with the people. I also think it's very, very important that we share with the people how much it costs within our budget, within the budget, that the people's money. How much does it cost for one council delegate? Because one council delegate, we receive our salary, we also receive, our sometimes our stipends, and then we also receive reimbursement for traveling. And so what I want to know is, are we sharing that information with the people? Because we need to know, when we're talking about this funding that's coming out, we need to be clear in that an increase is going to mean that we're going to be paying more delegates. And I'm reading the posts online on Facebook, and I think people are asking some really good questions, which is, how do we measure our delegates right now? What is in place right now to show that delegates are actually working? And I think that's a valid question. And when we had our chapter meetings, I went to every chapter meeting. I think I honestly missed 2 chapter meetings because I was on travel during that time. But in the whole entire 2019, and then, I missed January of 2020 because I was in Washington, D.C. at that time. But in that situation, we had the opportunity as delegates to go before our chapter, to look our people in the eye, to look at them face to face and tell them, this is the work that I'm doing right now. This is where I'm going to be traveling, or this is where I travel to, and these are the people that I met with. But because of the pandemic, we don't have our chapter houses open anymore. And so I think one of the big issues is, because the chapter houses are closed, some chapters are good. Some chapters are good at relaying information. Some chapters are not good. And some chapters keep that information only to themselves, which is why I've asked the other question on the floor. Do we as council delegates represent our chapter elected officials? Because I see some chapters where decisions are being made only by the elected officials, and I think that that's wrong. And I have called this out, and as my colleagues know, I have been slammed for doing that, but I stand by my word that, and I stand by my advocacy that our chapters need to be open and our people need to be heard. We opened up flea markets, but we can't open up chapter houses. And so what I worry about with this referendum going through the process right now, what I worry about is, how do we share that information with the people? How do we tell them that there was a history where at one point we had this many delegates, and then it went to this many delegates, and this was the reason why, and then it went to this many delegates, and this is where we're at today. And then it costs this much money for one delegate to be elected and for them to carry out their work for the Navajo people. So I have a lot of questions, and I agree 100% that this needs to go to the people. But what I worry about is, is there going to be proper teaching given to the people? What is it going to mean if we increase the number of delegates? Because right now, I think many of our people are saying that the delegates, they don't see their delegates. They don't hear from their delegates. They don't know what their delegates are doing. We know it. We see the work, and we're some of us are working every day on behalf of our people. But, it comes down to, do the people know what we're doing? And so I worry about that as well. And then the last thing that I will say is, I also worry because there is no job description for what a council delegate does. We don't have a requirement like other jobs, like other elected officials. We don't have a requirement in place right now that says, this is what, like, we don't even undergo a background investigation. And so I worry about that because, we make that expectations of all of our employees on the Navajo Nation, but we don't hold ourselves to that same expectation. Do we have an education requirement? Do we have a language proficiency requirement? Do we have a, requirement about lifting, a certain, amount of weight? We don't have that. And so it's no wonder our people don't really know what a council delegate does. And so I think that in terms of this referendum going to the people, we need to have that information to share with the people. We need to be able to say, this is what a council delegate does. And this is how we're working for you. Because we're talking about equal representation. People are saying that we want to be represented, but I would hate to give people false hope and say that, increasing the number of council delegates is going to, bring in more money for the Navajo Nation. It's going to mean getting more projects done. And then as Delegate Otto So stated, there's already, some, there's already some disagreements that are happening right now with the ARPA money. And there's 24 council delegates right now, 24 council delegates. And I think that we don't get along all the time. And some of us delegates, we take things really personal, and some of us take things very professional. And so I just worry that increasing the number of delegates, what is it going to mean for the people? What benefit is it going to give to the people? Are we going to guarantee that by increasing the number of delegates, we're going to increase the federal funding, we're going to increase jobs, we're going to increase, the positive lifestyle of the Navajo Nation? Are we going to decrease public safety issues? So what does this increase really mean? And so that's what I think is important. And that's what I'm going to request at this time is a justification. So Office of Government Development, I will say that at the Nabik-Iatskit meeting, I will be requesting that information be sent out by Nabik-Iatskit committee meeting. I want to know how much right now does it cost for a council delegate? If we're talking about their salary, if we're talking about their meetings, if we're talking about their reimbursement, I want to know, what does that cost for one council delegate? I want to know what work has been completed by the current 24th Navajo Nation Council. I want to know, what is our job description? I want to know what, when we're talking about equal representation, I want to be clear. Are we talking about equal representation to the chapters, or are we talking about equal representation based on population? And then I especially want to know, is this going to have a positive effect for the Navajo people? And government development, that's your job. You're presenting this referendum, you should have those answers already. So if I can get that before Nabik-Iatskit, and perhaps we can make a directive from Law and Order Committee. I don't know how a directive would work since we're not the final authority. But that's one council delegate who, is, I guess, I don't have enough information at this point to say whether I support this right now, because for me, there's not enough information attached to the legislation. It's saying, this is why we need to put this forward to the people. And I think that Delegate Vince James has asked and has requested that that information be forwarded to him. And I'd like to ask that the information be forwarded to myself as well. And I'm sure everybody has their own opinion about, the increase. But ultimately, if it's going to be put back on the people, then the people need to know the pros, and they also need to know the cons of what this increase is going to mean for the Navajo Nation government, for the Navajo people, and for council as a whole. Thank you.
Yeah, done. Another honorable Madam Chair, Eugenia Charles Newton, the Quigoshi, in identikit. Actually, if there's no other Law and Order Committee members that want to ask questions, another Kidochi, Kodo Dan Shinale, Honorable Edison Winika, Bandit Ish Alto, not Hot or Zihishi, Aquabe, Baby Gnato Jishako. Shinale, Honorable Edison Winika.
Agushi, thank you, Pro Temp Chair Vince James. I appreciate it. Can you hear me? Hello?
Oh, we can hear you.
Hello? Oh, okay. You keep pushing *6 in this letter. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your questions. A lot of those questions were your concerns, and I think a lot of it is also the concerns of the council. It seems like one of your main questions is as far as how the people will be educated. And that with the times I spent with election administration, that usually belongs to the election administration. Whatever items they put on the ballot, they will educate the people in that respect. We tried different ways to educate the people prior to that, like giving it to whoever's sponsoring the initiative or the legislation or the resolution or whatever. But sometimes it gets to the point where there is this people that are providing the initiative or whatever. It's really sometimes one-sided. So that's the reason why at one of the meetings we were told by one of the oversight that the best way to do this would be that there should be no bias as far as providing the information. So they gave it to the election administration so that they can educate the people in reference to whatever is going to get on the ballot or whatever. And that's been working pretty good. But the only problem with that is the timeline. There's really not enough time once an item gets on the ballot to the primary election and general election. So I understand what you're saying in that respect. And then as far as or do we represent the chapter or the people? And I think based on the apportionment, it was based on the population. So based on that, we represent the people. And there's no question what you're saying with Shiprock having 4,700 registered voters. And it's based on population, the apportionment that is done. And so it's probably way more than 4,700 as far as representation is concerned. In that respect, it is just as an example, if we're going to go apportion the 24 at this time with the new numbers that we have, I think it was close to 390,000. Just using 380,000 as an example, the number of people that 24 delegates will be representing, if it was reportioned now, it would be 16,250 people. So based on that, I think if we go to 48, it will probably be half of that, so it would be over 8,000. But as far as I think the quality of leadership, I think that's really up on each and every one of the delegates. And then cost per delegate is the same way as far as I'm concerned. I know what you're talking about as far as the stipends and the mileage and all the money that we get. And that will be good to know, because I've always been concerned about that, because sometimes I feel that we're not complying with Title II. Title II is very specific on what we should be paid for. But I think sometimes based on making rules and regulations, we go beyond that. But I think those type of questions has to come from the Attorney General or auditors or whoever. But just to me, your main concern had to do with educating the public. That will be done, but the timeline for that will be very short. But I think based on the requests coming from the chapters and based on the initiative that I did, there was quite a bit of education that was done not so much on the air because we didn't have the resource, but going to the chapters, going to 57 chapters and hitting all the agency council meetings, we were able to educate quite a few people. So that's the most I can respond back to in that respect. But I agree that we need to let the people know, and that we probably have to, I don't know how much when a budget is made for the amount that's going to be used for education will be cited on what is passed by the council. So yeah, there will be some education. That will be my response, Madam Chair. Appreciate your question. I don't know if the Office of Government Development has additional information.
Government Development.
Thank you so much, Pro Tem Chair. Yes, I just wanted to respond back to Honorable Charles Newton Madam Chair, in regards to her questions about some of the information that should have been provided with this legislation. And in regards to that, yes, I do apologize for not having those information ready here with this legislation. But again, I will work. I did say that I was going to start working on it immediately to make sure that the information is provided to you as soon as possible. I will work on the additional information that Madam Chair did request from on this, and I will provide that to her and the rest of the committee as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Elections Office.
Okay, this is Ms. Kelly from the Elections Office. You know, the Elections Office, for as long as it's been in existence, it's always had problems with resources. We've always been asking for additional funds to fund an election. The education, we're able to do it as long as we have the resources to do it. So if the council can give us the funds, we'll do the education. And there are more than one way to educate people. And but for those people, we have like the emails, teleconferences, Zoom, any kind of electronic communication. It's there, but it's limited to the younger folks. They know how to operate those. Nana, the elderly, that's how they would understand that. But like I said, it all goes back to resources. I'm sure that we can do a good education, an excellent education, but we have to have the resources. Thank you.
Yeah, Honorable Edison Wanika, Other Government Development, the Election Office there. Ada not ziki. Kodoshi dan Shanale, Honorable Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton, do not this kiddo. Not this kiddo. Do you have a follow-up question?
I'm going to go ahead and save my questions for the NABI meeting. Ikahat Shanella Bench James for assisting me during this time.
Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and give the gavel back to you.
Don't throw it too hard, Shanella. Last time it hit me. So with that, committee members, do we have any other questions or comments at this time regarding legislation number 0251-21? Not hearing anything, I think we are ready to vote on this legislation. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please?
Okay, Madam Chair. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate Jane votes red.
Honorable Vince James votes red. Honorable Eugene Sell, how do you vote?
Vote as you get.
Honorable Eugene Sell votes green. Honorable Otto Sell, how do you vote? Honorable-
Honorable Vice Chair Otto So did text me to say that he votes green for legislation 0251-21. He is in a doctor's appointment at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Otto Sell votes green via text. Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi.
Sherelle, I believe that Delegate Yazi did state on the record that he may be losing reception, but he was going to vote green for the legislation. Am I
Yes.
correct on that, Sherelle?
Yes.
and Lorraine?
Yes, Madam Chair, you're correct. And Honorable Edmund Yazi votes green. Madam Chair, and then you have 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 not voting, which is the chair, Madam Charles Newton, not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, Delegate Winika, we thank you for your time. Legislation 0251-21 hereby passes with a motion of 3 in favor, 1 opposed, 1 not voting. So it does proceed forward to the Budget and Finance Committee. Thank you so much, Delegate Winika, for being on the line and presenting your legislation. You are excused at this time, you and your agents.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it.
So with that, committee members, we're going to go ahead and go back to the agenda. We do have receiving reports. We have a report from Director Jesse Delmar, the Executive Director for the Division of Public Safety, and also the Navajo Technical University, Elmer J. Guy, PhD, regarding an MOU for a police academy and classes that are counted towards degree and academy. We do have, I don't see them anymore. Do we have Navajo Technical University on the line?
Yes, we are present.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. I do see you now, Ms. Bowman. And we also have Joshua Ward Jeffrey, who is on the line. And then we also have Lieutenant Key, who is also on the line with us at this time. So with that, let me just go over, I believe that this is the first time the 3 of you are presenting to the Law and Order Committee. You do have 15 minutes to present your presentation. If you need an additional 5 minutes, you can request of the committee to extend your time to give you an additional 5 minutes, which means you technically would have 20 minutes to get your information through. Upon completion of the presentation, if you could tell us that you're done with the presentation, then what we'll do is we then proceed forward to turn the floor over to the committee members and to other delegates who are on the line to ask questions regarding the reports. And it's somewhat of a volley. You go back and forth, maybe 1, 2 questions will be asked from delegates, and then we turn the floor back over. We ask that you don't speak unless you're recognized during this time. And then everyone who is listening on the line, the Law and Order Committee has a 0 tolerance rule. Everyone should know the rules by now. When it comes to teleconference, your phone should be on mute. If your phone is not muted, we will end your call, and you will be you basically have to call back in if you want to get back onto the line. So we'll go ahead and we'll begin the presentation with Lieutenant Key, who can provide us some information about the Police Academy, and then we'll go ahead and proceed forward to the Navajo Technical University, who can then provide information about the MOU and the classes that are counted towards the Police Academy and also towards a degree as well. So before I turn the floor over to the presenters, do you have any questions on the process or the procedure for presenting your information to the Law and Order Committee today?
No, Madam Chair.
Lieutenant Key, thank you. So with that, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to hear the report regarding the Police Academy and the classes counted towards the degree and the academy. Can I get a motion and a second from committee members, please?
Motion, Delegate James.
Motion made by Honorable Vince James. Can I get a second, committee members? Honorable Eugene, so I believe that Delegate Otto hasn't got back on the line, and I don't see Delegate Edmund Yazzie on the line as well. So if you could, if you would be the only committee member at this time to provide a second.
Oh, sure.
Okay, with that, we do have a motion made by Honorable Vince James, and then we have a second by Honorable Eugene So. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Lieutenant Key. Lieutenant Key, the floor is yours.
Yeah, okay, Miss Madam Chair, the rest of the committee members, I am Donnie Key. I'm the current training commander at the Navajo Police Training Academy here in Chinle, Arizona. Or where I got I got it all mixed up. So I've been here with Navajo Police as the training commander of the Police Training Academy here in Chinle since May 26th is when I was working here. I retired from the Sheriff's Office in San Juan County, worked for them for 4.5 years, and I worked for the Farmington Police Department for 15.5 years prior to that. Currently, we just started a police academy here in Chinle. We've got 25 recruits on deck, beginning their 28-week program. Prior to me coming on board, Navajo Police had engaged in conversation with Navajo Technical University. My predecessors had engaged in some cooperative effort to try to bring either a certificate or a degree program forward. And the work had begun then. And then I came in and we kind of just continued along with that. Previously, I think that some of the communication and some of the partnership had been a little bit of a challenge. But we revitalized that and have been approaching the completion of really what had started. And so I'll let Mr. Jeffrey talk about that a little bit more, but that's who I am. That's where we are. And I'd like to have Mr. Joshua Jeffrey, who's got the presentation, and I can field any questions along with that or any questions that we've got right now.
Thank you, Lieutenant Key. Mr. Jeffrey?
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and Council delegates and community members. It's a pleasure to testify before the Law and Order Committee this afternoon about this important partnership between Navajo Technical University and Navajo Police. A little bit about me. I am the coordinator for the Navajo Police Training Academy for Navajo Technical University. And I am also assistant professor of law enforcement at NTU. Before I accepted this position, I was teaching as an assistant professor of history and Diné studies at NTU. And I'm a 15-year veteran of law enforcement and the fire service. I'm a historian by training. Quite a bit of my research actually focuses on federal law enforcement. And so I was pleased to accept this position when NTU asked if I'd like to assume some leadership with the university and moving the academic program of the Police Academy forward. Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I would like to ask for permission to share my screen. I have a presentation that I have prepared to share with you all today.
Mr. Jeffrey, I don't mind. Sherelle, Lorraine, can you make sure that Mr. Jeffrey can share his presentation with those of us who are listening in online?
Can you all see my screen?
I can see it fine, thank you.
All right. So as Lieutenant Key mentioned, the relationship between NTU and the Police Academy had been paused because of the fact that NTU had lost a Police Academy coordinator, and it took Navajo Tech a while to connect with me in order to take over that. So now that I am on board as the coordinator and Lieutenant Key is the new commander, we've NTU and NPD have renewed our relationship, and I think that we've found a new a balance that works very well between us and between Lieutenant Key and his staff. We have a very cordial working relationship, and we meet together several times a week in order to find solutions to various problems that we encounter in preparing future law enforcement professionals for service to the Navajo Nation. And so I'm really pleased about that. As I know you are aware, Madam Chair, NTU and NPD had come to an agreement on a memorandum of understanding, and that had been sent to Navajo DOJ. We have actually recently met to revise that a little bit to reflect the new realities of myself and Lieutenant Key working in the academy, as well as the changes in the Navajo Nation Code reflecting Navajo Post, Arizona Post, and the Navajo Nation's relationship with the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center's Indian Police Academy. And so we recently revised that language, and I believe we all came to an agreement on that, and that revised MOU has been forwarded to Navajo DOJ. I believe they have only had it for about a week, so I don't know that they've had a chance yet to thoroughly investigate it, but it is currently in their domain. NTU is also currently working on a grant with Navajo PD to try and obtain funds from 511 Tactical Gear. They're a company that makes police uniforms and equipment. And this grant would provide NPD's Police Academy recruits with new uniforms and also some extra equipment that they would be able to use during training. NPD was expecting a large class. I know that we've had a few injuries over the last week, which has caused a little bit of attrition. But because of the fact that they were expecting a very large class, we've come to an agreement to share classroom space at the Chenley site, at the brand new building there for NPD to use. And then the NTU certificate programs, as you are aware, have been revised at the request of Navajo Police. And so now NTPA graduates will receive a technical certificate in law enforcement. And what that will do is that will actually cover the first full year towards an associate's degree. And after I'm done with this presentation, I have the degree checklist that I can show you that will spell out exactly what classes Navajo police recruits will gain credit for, and then how that would fit into them working towards their associate's degree, and then hopefully later on a bachelor's degree in criminology and the administration of justice from NTU. But these certificate and degree programs are stackable. So once a graduate graduates from the police academy with their certificate, they'll have done the first year of a 2-year degree or the first year of a 4-year degree. And so, but if they get a 2-year associate's degree with us and then later decide that they would like a bachelor's degree, all of those credits from the prior certificate and degrees will count toward them earning that next credential. And then finally, we have been exploring various ways that NTU and NPD can continue to cooperate beyond just the police academy. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're working right now on a joint Bachelor of Arts in Criminology and the Administration of Justice. And this degree specifically will help prepare Navajo police officers for promotion, either into investigations, if that's an area that they're interested in, or into supervisory and management positions. And so the degree will have criminological theory and investigative theory, along with courses on public administration, so that graduates are well prepared to go into either of those roles. We are also currently exploring high school dual credit courses in law enforcement with the various high schools that we have relationships with on the Navajo Nation, so that those students who are 16, 17, 18 years old and they are thinking about law enforcement as a career can actually take a course or two in law enforcement at high school, get college credit for it, and that will prepare them to be better positioned to enter NTU and more quickly obtain a certificate or a degree and enter the workforce. This will also, though, provide these students with tangible information and some tangible experiences for those that are interested in law enforcement. It will give them reasons to keep their nose clean, so to speak, to stay on the right path. So that they can pass a background investigation, so that they develop the type of character that they need to be a Navajo police officer, because the expectations that we have for police officers here are extremely high, and so this experience will actually help prepare them to meet the hurdles. And then also we're exploring the creation of a mentor-mentee component as part of that dual credit process, and also even possibly internships that would allow these students to get more experience and to be paired up with someone who has a career in law enforcement, so that they are better prepared to enter the field. And then finally, we are also, with the Department of Public Safety, exploring some wildland fire and emergency medical services education programs, so that we can help alleviate some of the staffing problems that BIA and the Navajo Nation are currently experiencing in other realms of public safety, so that we can help improve public safety here on the Navajo Nation. Oh, excuse me, I have another page here. I forgot about this. Also, we are exploring scholarship programs for JROTC students who are in Navajo Nation high schools who are interested in a career in law enforcement. We're also engaging in conversations with NPD about the criminalistical science opportunities that the Center for the Environment Lab that is currently underway at Chinle, so that they can have those additional abilities to test things like rape kits, to do forensics on firearms, things like that, so that those items on more important cases don't have to be sent off the Navajo Nation, that we have our own people doing the science, and that we're not paying somebody off the nation to do something that we can do here. And then the last area of cooperation that we're exploring is continuing conversations with NPD about the possibility of creating a police community service officer program. These would be unarmed officers with limited training who would be able to take over certain functions, like, for instance, calls for service where there are no suspects or there's very little risk to the officer. That way, armed, fully trained Navajo police officers are freed up to respond to more urgent calls. And that is pretty much the areas that we are exploring right now. And then, excuse me one moment. All right, and as promised, here's our Associate of Arts in Criminal Justice degree plan, and specifically this shows those courses that Navajo police recruits who are earning our technical certificate in law enforcement. These are the courses that after the 28 weeks they will receive college credit for. They're getting a full year of college credit in this 6-month program. So they'll receive 3 credits in Introduction to Criminal Justice, another 3 in Public Safety Report Writing, another 3 in Substantive Criminal Law, another 3 in Ethics, 3 more in Forensic Science. Those are specifically forensic science techniques that you use out on the road. Another 3 credits focused on traffic enforcement, another 3 on police proficiency skills. Those are officer safety skills, how to investigate a crime scene, things like that. Criminal investigation, which is actually moving past forensics and investigating crimes with people. And they'll also receive 3 credits in Navajo government and another 3 in Introduction to Computers. As you can see here, all of these 30 credits will prepare them for the first year of the associate's degree in criminal justice here at NTU. And Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation.
Does that conclude the presentation from NTU and also from the Police Academy?
Yes, it does, Madam Chair.
Thank you all very much. So with that, committee members, do we have any questions or comments on the information that has been provided to us here today? Honorable Eugene So, the floor is yours.
So, Jonogoyela, Tahati, Sella, Big was 8,000 or Nisha Chondash. No, they are what he party. Well, they get us sheep, the gun, she got us, she's other cities. At a certain interpret or 6. He did, as Aggie. Wage in the league, did a crown point, yeah, that's it or that are in league in TUA. Or John Nuns can't get cray. Say, yeah, should I educate not it is either John or Barcelona. All no, nothing to know how gardens of one first kiss. Co area. Distance or the is law and Bela other the big Sahele saw in the neat camp. And she is about an leader tribe. Kato Navajo Nation, but once again, it does a big at us tribe a base of a Hadlon song here. First kiss other as a Baba has on first cut. I am a very kid. I am a business has. The place of a husting. It I don't also large as so large a hard is based on what that you use elation so. So the question 30 hours is other hassle now. Quit about the Halidan sound ownership. I'll now have the base on what that so 6:38 weekend that it does NTU that weekend that the create on. Not a skit all this. A gradually has on it as
Last and then since I am that card, I come in. You can ask it. She did it on his other you see the window. I don't know that she just yeah. He had he thought clear to the cut that he said all done that he cut. And that's not yeah, but just cut all something that's in this. I couldn't get a day's eat or the races cut that's not the Canada horse. Since she's not that but the whole that. So those are good questions, good things that these guys are having to do with some credit and part of this me but here in Hala. We as twisally I just want to say that all this real one. I should think that in the law Hano for lava and the such option that he's the increase cannot that now there's such all the websites are the as on that he laid it not sure. I also laid it called on not what is me. And that open to narrow so bad to the hand I was not it's yeah, what's that? But we do need police, yeah. We got a lot of people out there on the other side of the Navajo there, or as long as we keep up with the race, I reckon we'll be all right. But in other words, I wish we could only parent our kids. We don't have to worry about all this kind of stuff. The share is I mean, it's all of another, which is yeah. Then, that it was that as opposite that is just create. She's not us. She's not going to.
Yeah, Shaja, thank you for those questions and concerns. I'm going to go and turn the floor back over to Mr. Jeffrey, Lieutenant Key, and Dr. Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Honorable Council Delegate Eugene So for his words of encouragement and his question. The first portion of his question, I'd like to answer that he is correct that the Navajo Police Training Academy is located in Chinle. And if we get some additional time, maybe we can speak to some new developments going on with our location. We entered into a kind of a partnership with Navajo Department of Corrections, and they allowed us use of the former juvenile correctional facility here in Chinle, which expands greatly our capabilities at the academy. But to answer the Honorable Council Min So's question, I'll refer the questions over to Mr. Jeffrey that are specifically related to funding. Councilman wants to know who's going to pay for this, whether it's coming from NTU or exactly where's the funding coming to pay for the college credits. Madam Chair, if I could turn it back over to Mr. Jeffrey. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Key. Mr. Jeffrey?
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to address that question. So funding is being offered both through Pell Grants. So because Navajo police officers are also enrolled at NTU as NTU students, the Pell Grant allows them to pay for their tuition in that way. And also recruits also have the ability to apply to the Navajo Nation Office of Scholarships for additional funding, as well as through the American Indian College Fund. Now, for the vast majority of our students, the Pell Grant more than covers any and all tuition. And so if the students wish to apply for funding through those other agencies, that's something that they are entitled to do. And that some of them I'm sure will do, but they're not required to do so. But all of the money, unless they apply through one of those other sources, is coming from the federal government through the Pell Grant program.
Thank you for that, Mr. Jeffrey, for the clarification. Shaja, do you have any other questions or any follow-up?
regards to the academy that we're using there, pushing for that and the new academy there behind the Catholic Church. I wish we'd get it too. I would really need your comments when I put it on the floor as a part of ARPA funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaja. Mr. Jeffrey or Lieutenant Key or Dr. Bowman.
Honorable Chairwoman Charles Newton and committee members. This is Dr. Bowman. I'm Nashtaja Bash's Chin, These are my Chays and these are my Nullies. And I'm the provost for the university in charge of all the academic side of the programming that happens within Navajo Technical University. Our goal here is to share and be transparent with you in the efforts that we have made in building a strong relationship between Navajo Technical University and the Navajo Police Department. We work well together and we listen to the past hearing, to listen to all the different challenges that come about, the concerns that council delegates have expressed in our children not going on straight paths that prevent them from becoming police officers or even considering roles in law enforcement. What we did was we went ahead and listened to those and started brainstorming. A lot of those things we already recognized. And we said, we have processes in place, programs that are in place that we can tap into and try to build upon those so that we have a strong pathway for our children to access careers in law enforcement. And I'm just very appreciative that you've taken the time to listen to the report and to express to you that what we would like from the Navajo Nation is an expeditious review of the memorandum of understanding, and that we make sure that we have the documentation in place to allow us to continue building on this relationship. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Bowman, and thank you for the presentation as well. I did ask Lorraine, did you send out that presentation to the Law and Order Committee?
No, Madam Chair, I haven't get the presentation yet.
Mr. Jeffrey, could you please send that presentation to Ms. Lorraine Spencer? Because I can't go back to the presentation that you just gave to us. It's easier for us to generate questions based on the information that you provided to us here today. But without having a copy of that presentation, we can't do that. So Lorraine, as soon as it gets sent out to you, could you please send that out to the committee members? Committee members for the Law and Order Committee, are there any other questions or comments at this time?
Delegate James here.
Delegate James, the floor is yours.
Thank you again. Ado kodo dan shanahun aigi do nana ade NTU nihitas ande do salah has ande nihit nada hasol naigi di de kwaje oho na ntin e aje nihit salah naqalchene yodo as e aje itle salah atleje ako kodo shilhas ando na entiende qui goshi al ego nahaba apunsin ado al na entien betaho ado benya al dat el na sos linigi datai jaho nleda in hisala okodat tahwel ji sele oko kwanza tahol jiste ya dide latot aba hatten nahalot what nahalchen leni edahol leko oko dishe kwade dag antil shilhas oko dide kwaje Sage Memorial Hospital aj has anigi aj ni kodo kodo na behot ni hisalao leni aj yato kaligi do babe hot ita ado aje hait aho da alatsin do nil aj benanish ido lili do abaha hatten ako dide da holt so na antin bilin da hot ako different certifications that higi leda and his a lot what he da hot do lato beta hal tra beta eya e hot ba ol tra lini de inde John de ik at ba khaten khat ila binna eya e ba khaten lanso e kodo ba na dishkido le e tsana dishkido ado nana di de eta host so na antien belinda hot higi e digi aba hatten e dat et o nache kwalia ako e di et ni hin halchen eta hol higi skinlo e ya in leje bel hot de doljish akot dat e ya e ban sa ke so e da olla se le ko dat e hot an habike dishti e do kwaigi e na dishkido le lako ako ashon de e be ya e kodo na dishkit ada kui de shi ba na dishkit ako di de at o de salao aj bin na tien ado di ni hata hot so has anje hos do ha hot so has anje do yo toj ha hot so do shi bi toj ha hot so ade da na tien bin da hot higi do in his salao aj a hil na anish e kwaiki na antini ki dot apa ha den o ya kodat au bedal ha ki e na che kwalia di na ha chine tskilo ya et o lik ado ben na che tskilo ya e sala holon do lik na ho jokot au in habik ishti ako adat hot in haba akon sin ako Khayla ben hat do khayla hot ya tades case hot eta ohlala so to kodo hot na del kidole hot has tra has ango na del kidole ha shinale honorable Eugenia Charles Newton kwadole do hotina do shinando.
Thank you for that, Delegate James. So with that, we'll go ahead and turn the floor back over to Dr. Bowman, Lieutenant Key, and also Mr. Jeffrey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that I could probably answer some of the Honorable Delegate James's questions, particularly as it relates to state certifications and impost certifications and kind of what's going on with that. Prior to me coming on with Navajo Police, the decision had been made to move away from state certifications, particularly New Mexico State Police Peace Officer Standards and Training certifications, and Arizona Post, which is the Peace Officers Standards and Training certifications. The decision had been made to move away from state certifications, primarily because the limitations set on obtaining that training, maintaining and the requirements to maintain the training, and then specifically what we were getting out of those certifications versus the certifications that were needed in order to police on Navajo. The determination was made at that time that the only laws that Navajo police officers were enforcing at the time were tribal laws and federal laws. And so the decision had been made to move to a Navajo Peace Officers Standard and Training certification, being that we were a sovereign nation, that we're able to provide our own training, vet our own training, and provide our own certifications for our Navajo police officers to be able to enforce tribal law. And then as a part of that training and curriculum, supplement their ability to enforce federal law through the Special Law Enforcement Commission training that the federal government puts on, where Navajo police officers are able to obtain their federal law enforcement commission, a special federal law enforcement commission, to enforce federal laws on Indian land. And so the direction has been to maintain our own Navajo post certifications, but it has been done in conjunction with the Indian Police Academy, which is working out of Artesia, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Artesia. And so we've been working with them quite closely to make sure that our academy curriculum mirrors what they've got. So we teach all the curriculum that the Indian Police Academy provides and more. We met with the director of the Indian Police Academy, Mr. Steve Juneau, back in July, and just made sure that we affirmed the fact that we were meeting their expectations, and it was determined at that time that we actually were exceeding their expectations. The current academy schedule is scheduled to be 28 weeks long, and the number of training hours that they're going to receive far exceeds anything that the state of New Mexico and the state of Arizona are requiring in order to obtain a state certification. Now, with that being said, there is some issues with the state post-certification boards recognizing Navajo post-certifications. And I think that that's probably something that we could work through, that I'm aware of. We have not engaged in any kind of talks with them here in my tenure here, which is since May, but it's not absolutely nothing that we can't entertain as well as obtain. The problem with a state certification is you're maintaining the state certification and having to be held to their requirements for training based on that. With and so then you run the risk of what is the benefit of maintaining the state certification outside that, due to the fact that we only enforce tribal and federal laws here on the Navajo Nation. And we rely quite heavily on other local agencies like the sheriff's offices and state police in order to deal with non-natives on native land, in which we have done quite successfully and cooperatively. We've been having a lot of cross-commissioning trainings in which other agencies are receiving commissions to be able to work on Navajo land in that way. And so that's the information that I've got as it pertains to Navajo post certification. The Navajo post certification, again, is mirrored off the Indian Police Academy's certification through the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, as well as that. And so the academy setting itself, like I said, is 28 weeks long. After their academy, the expectation is that we provide a basic trained police officer ready to work the road. And once we are done with the officers, they graduate the academy. They are sent out to their individual districts. They spend the next 14 weeks in field training, in which the field training process involves them riding with 3 different officers over the course of 14 weeks, in which they get a lot of hands-on one-on-one training. And then after the 14 weeks, provided they successfully complete that, then they're released on their own to provide services to their districts in their individual communities. And so I guess I could take any other questions beyond that, if there are any others, Madam Chair.
Thank you for answering those questions. Delegate James, do you have any further questions or comments at this time?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Ado kodo da not hinzigi yeah dide nache Sage Memorial Hospital ajihat ego da anahot hazleo Asia hit out quaiki dohwash do that's it on habohonetza a could out not del kidolish yeah.
Thank you for that, Delegate James. Lieutenant Key.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the question specifically related to Sage Memorial, I'm assuming that because it's deemed not going to be Navajo. Is that am I correct in that line of questioning?
Oh,
Lieutenant Key.
Yes, ma'am. It cut out. I didn't hear.
Oh, he said, oh, yes.
Okay. And in that case, as far as the Sage Memorial Hospital, generally what we will do is in the case of emergent response, anything that requires an expedited response for anything that would be a direct emergency. Nothing prevents a Navajo police officer from responding and making sure that life safety is the priority and taking whatever actions are necessary to prevent any loss of life or any injuries to anyone before agencies that have the ability, cross-commissioning ability to come and provide services, whether it be a state agency, Arizona DPS, or the sheriff's office. They would be able to go there to provide the immediate assistance required, and then figure out who is going to come to their assistance in order to make that happen. The one thing that I think that we could probably, and I'll have to follow up with my bosses, engage in some conversation would be to determine whose jurisdiction that is to begin with, and then what can we do to build some bridges and make it a lot more functional for us to be able to go in and offer assistance, whether that's a special commissioning through the local sheriff's office in order to get that done, that allows officers to go in and act in a law enforcement capacity until either they're relieved by the appropriate agency who has jurisdiction over that, or maybe even depending on the MOU and the jurisdictional commissioning itself, be able to act in some capacity to act on things that the community needs at that point. But it's certainly something that we can definitely engage in. I will make sure that I'll let my bosses know that that's an important issue that we probably need to explore. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Lieutenant Key. Shanella, Honorable Vince James, do you have any other questions or comments at this time?
Ik had dan snelle door, ik had dan Lieutenant Key ade not aan such a hindsight don hitch a hindsight. Did uniforms. Aje nachalchen el so ba ultra day e ko just laben antin ba ultra so day e ho. Echt abbe kodo be ye hatat ehi yik esla edo that's it ade ya dam salam has ande that's it an here ya e big so lako ako kodo benina adish kidiki ek at the question salam in hidini Nije be hadatit nije nashbe il ene ya quite an hebik enda yilia nanish that the on nije hold just gon hilche hold jis dan ne ako la hit out ya ben not tin aje nachalchene hala and that ya nanish linigi at the hati kato and the nanish linigi aje ye the hatil aho aje ya be hajoba yen sida case ako kodo na the hol ni an hiben hit the hol ni na bet no that's it I do kod that on so kodo ban this case ako kod out na del kido lit on Lieutenant Lee Key, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Shanella. Lieutenant Key.
Oh, yeah, Donna. So the uniforms, we provide all duty uniforms for the Navajo Nation. It's something that that we have worked on here in the last few years, is centralizing a lot of all the logistical aspects of the agency itself of Navajo Police. And uniforms is one of those. We just got a large uniform order in. Historically, what has happened is it used to be that the individual districts, 7 districts on Navajo, were responsible for ordering uniforms for their officers. We have moved that to a more centralized procurement process for agency-wide procurement of uniforms. And so we provide uniforms to our officers. I'm not too sure what they may be referencing as far as buying their own uniforms. I imagine one thing that we do not provide, and I wish that we did, is boots or an allowance for boots. Boots are something that we do not provide. We provide patrol uniforms. Generally, we provide 2 to 3 sets of patrol uniforms per year, depending on the funding that's available. But the other uniforms that we do not provide, that a lot of the districts are providing, though, are going to be things such as like their tactical pants and polo shirts that have their embroidery, agency embroidered areas. A lot of the districts are providing those things for their officers. A lot of officers are providing their own. For the most part, we've concentrated on uniforms. The actual uniform, patrol uniform that we wear, that is provided by the agency itself. In addition to that, we provide all of their duty gear, their belts, their gun belts, everything that's on their black leather belts that you see a traditional police officer wear. That is also provided by the agency as well. And so I hope that answers the Honorable Delegate James' question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I'd like to add to that. Do I have permission?
Dr. Bowman, go ahead.
I would just like to say that Navajo Technical University is in a position where we can write grants to support those things that would help our officers, like the boot allowance. That could be part of something that we write for a grant to support the tactical pants and the embroidered shirts, having an allowance like that. And those are the kinds of grant writing opportunities that lie before us that Mr. Jeffrey is investigating to help assist. And I also wanted to comment on something that was discussed prior in respects to the curriculum that is being offered by the police academy. The reason why NTU is involved in that is we worked in conjunction with the police department to have the curriculum vetted and approved by the Higher Learning Commission so that we could offer certificate and degree programs. And so we are aligning all of these different requirements for Navajo police to have a quality education, quality training, professional development experience. So thank you, Madam Chair, committee members.
Thank you for that, Dr. Bowman, for providing additional information. So with that, we do have Delegate Otto So, who is back on the line. I will ask, are there any other delegates from the Law and Order Committee or any other delegates who are listening in at this time who would like to ask questions? Not hearing anything. I do have just a couple of questions. Vice Chair Otto So, can you take the chair for a few minutes while I ask questions regarding this report?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I got the gavel. Madam Chair, you have the floor. Yeah.
Thank you, Vice Chair Ihiaha. And thank you, Mr. Jeffrey, Dr. Bowman, and Lieutenant Key for the information. Again, I don't know if we got the email yet. I haven't checked my email to see if the presentation is being provided in there. I was just now reading over the Indian Affairs Manual, the law enforcement detention standards, specifically for what is happening with commissions. And I know, Lieutenant Key, thank you for letting us know that, about the state certification and the, I guess, the decisions that were made prior to you stepping into this position. But I want to know, the officers who have graduated since this academy has opened, are they post? And if so, with who? And the reason why I asked this question is because I don't know if Navajo Nation has passed I'm not really sure about how the Navajo Nation is involved in the post certification requirements. And I know that we prior to the police academy there in Chinle, there was a police academy in Toye. And our understanding, the information that was shared with the Law and Order Committee was that the Toye Police Academy was recognized and they were post, I guess the officers who were graduated with their post. I believe it's their post certification. So we did ask at one time, after learning that Toye did have their post that was blessed and also recognized by the BIA, this committee did ask if the current police academy does have the the blessings and the permission from the BIA to establish their own post. And so I just want to make sure that our officers who are graduating are that they do have their post certification, and that you know, and if it's through the Navajo Nation, I don't think that this committee has been provided the approval of the Navajo Nation post. Again, I know that when Toye was in operation, they were approved back then, but then there was a large lapse of time. And I believe that Navajo Nation lost their post. And then, you know, with this new academy, there was still a lot of questions about the post. And again, we did ask those questions and they were never answered. So can you tell us, Lieutenant Key, are the officers who have graduated since the police academy has opened in Chinle, are they post? Do they have their post? And if they do, who is granting their post? Because I'm looking at the Indian Affairs Manual, tribal law enforcement tribal law enforcement officers. It says that tribal operations of a law enforcement program does not automatically confer federal law enforcement authority on the officers in these police academy or police departments. District commanders will issue commissions to these officers only when A, federal jurisdiction and valid requirements exist, and B, tribal law enforcement officers have been certified as having met at least the minimum standards for qualification, training, and suitability that are required of BIA law enforcement officers. And that says if adherence to the standards in 2.2C1 is not maintained, the commission is to be revoked by the official who has authority to issue the commission. So if you could share that information with us, Lieutenant Key, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, and so some information about all the recruits who have, or the officers that have graduated from the academy since it was reestablished here in Chinle, have a Navajo post certification. And so the post service, the post portion of the certification, whether it's AZ post, New Mexico post, Navajo post, post stands for Peace Officers Standards and Training certification. And so New Mexico Department of Public Safety has their own NM post, New Mexico post. Arizona DPS has their own Arizona post, AZ post. And so Navajo post was created so that they could act as their own accrediting body to create their own standards for the peace officer standards and training. And so the officers that have graduated from the Chinle Academy since it has been reestablished have graduated with a Navajo post certification. Now, and so I'm gonna jump to the Navajo post certification. The Navajo post certification was created in conjunction with the BIA Indian Police Academy, which is established at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Academy in Artesia, New Mexico. That's the Indian Police Academy is where the tribes who don't have their own police academy send their tribal officers to obtain training that is established by BIA. BIA establishes those standards at IPA, which is the Indian Police Academy. Navajo Post, this academy here, I shouldn't say Navajo Post, this academy here on Navajo Nation has worked hand in hand with the Indian Police Academy, which is the BIA Academy in Artesia, New Mexico, to make sure that we are fulfilling all of the BIA requirements set forth in their own academy. The curriculum that we teach here at the academy on Navajo is the exact same curriculum. As a matter of fact, everything on it says Indian Police Academy. It is the exact same curriculum that is being taught at the Indian Police Academy at FLETC in Artesia. And so they send us all of their curriculum. We maintain that curriculum, and any updates they provide to us before we start an academy, we ensure that there are no redactions or revisement of any of the curriculum in which they provided us, and that we have the most current up-to-date versions of what they are teaching. They work with us really well in that aspect. We provide our curriculum to them as well as our schedule with them, and they look at it. And so when we met with Mr. Steve Juneau back in July, he explained to us that they were there to support us, and that we were, in his words, the equivalent of the Indian Police Academy at FLETC, and that we did not necessarily, he says that we did not necessarily fall underneath them, that we were equivalent to what they were able to do. And so we provide all the training that the Indian Police Academy, the BIA Academy, provides. And additionally, we provide all the stuff that is unique to the Navajo Nation, Navajo Code, Navajo codes, and everything else that is specific and unique to Navajo, on top of all of the curriculum that is being taught at the Indian Police Academy. Now, it is my understanding that back in the day when Toye was up and running, that they were recognized under the Arizona peace officers standards and training. This was something that was I guess the intent was to continue it, but there was some problems with the way in which AZ Post was trying to schedule some inspections, and so things got a little sideways with them. And so we've been really challenged in the way of working with them directly. I don't think that bridge has been burned. I think that we could probably engage them in that. But but if that was the intent, we really need to look at what is the benefit of going with a state certification rather than maintaining our own certification, which we have been doing in that way. And so I don't know. I can't speak to the fact or whether or not the Law and Order Committee, previous to my arrival here in May, has received anything as far as information, a presentation on Navajo Post, or what approvals have, if any request for approval has been brought forth before the committee in that way. But it's definitely something I can discuss with my bosses to see what the direction and what direction we need to go. I think that the idea of Navajo Post is important to Navajo. Primarily, it provides a foothold for us to be self-sustaining in our ability to provide our own training. We have the expertise here in-house to be able to take care of a lot of our training, and it lends itself to our own individual lack of dependence on anyone else outside outside Navajo Nation. We do continually work with the Indian Police Academy, BIA Indian Police Academy. As a matter of fact, we take them down, we take the recruits down to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center to provide all of their emergency driving, emergency vehicle operations training while we're down there. So we are down there for a week conducting that. And so they have the infrastructure and the ability, resources available to provide that. And they are more than willing to help us out with that. And so I don't know if the committee has any, or Madam Chair, if you have any other questions related to that. And I hope I answered your questions, ma'am.
Thank you very much for your response. Madam Chair, any follow-up?
Just that I look forward to working with you, Lieutenant Key. Just that committee members, Lieutenant Key and I went to school together at Sherbrooke High School years and years and years ago. We took a few classes together. Delegate Otto, so I don't know if you know the former council delegate Glojine Totachini. She used to be one of our teachers there at Sherbrooke High School. So Lieutenant Key and I go back years and years. So Lieutenant Key, I just want to say welcome aboard. Thank you for the information, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to take, if I could just get one moment just to extend an invitation to all of the members of the Law and Order Committee. We are here in Chinle. We're located, our doors always open to you. Come and spend a day with us, an afternoon. We have coffee. We generally have something sweet to snack on. And I want to thank you, and as well as all the other committee members, for allowing us to appear before you and speak with you. If anybody ever has any questions, our door is absolutely open to anything. And so I am looking forward very much to working with everyone from here on out. Thank you, ma'am.
Chair Pro Tem, would I make a quick statement?
Hold on. Thank you very much, Mr. Lieutenant Key, for your response to Madam Chair, and Madam Chair for your questions posed to Lieutenant Key. I'll turn the floor over to you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Pro Tem. So I just sent a document to Ms. Spencer, in addition to the rest of the documents that you asked me to forward to her. But I sent her a copy of a resolution of the Navajo Nation Council, which was passed in 2018, which creates Navajo Post in Title II and Title 17 of the Navajo Nation Code. So that information should be to you now. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much for that response and that information. And Lorraine will get the documents out to the committee members of this committee here. With that, I'm going to turn the gavel back over to Madam Chair. And Madam Chair, I just have a few comments here. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have the chair back. Thank you, Vice Chair, for your assistance during that time. Vice Chair, the floor is yours.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much again. One thing that I just wanted to indicate is that, we have NTU, under the 23rd Council, we brought NTU and the Net College together to try to find or to try to get our police officers additional training and education in law enforcement and in that field. And we had the conversation between the Net College and NTU. And at the time, the colleges really couldn't compete against each other. So since they're both serving the Navajo Nation, so I believe NTU is the entity that took the reign of providing these courses at the as a educational class and so forth. But what I'm getting to is that I will tell you that I want to tell you that I guess the professional aspect of the career of being an officer, and this is geared to the training center and then NTU. How do you work with job fairs to try to nip the kids at a younger age? I know that they have to be 21, but as you present these options to our children out there that graduate and become of age of 21 to go into the law enforcement field, what is the what is the the communication out there to try to continue with the recruitment of Navajo police officers? Today, we still have police officers under the amount of what we could fill out the police officers to the maximum under our 638 contract. What I'm getting to is that with the training center, the outreach program to try to increase training for to get kids to go into law enforcement here on Navajo. And the other is that there's a training center or Navajo Nation Police Department have an incentive program where you allow our police officers who become Navajo certified, post-certified, and when they become officers, is there an opportunity for them that's built into the current structure for them to continue their education, whether it's in whatever part of the career field of public safety, because you have the criminal field that could be looked into in abroad, and we have police officers that could actually get their degrees in that field, so that we could try to initiate to try to expand their minds and their training ability and their careers, because we have Navajos that become police officers and they serve the nation for many years, and at some point they leave, and it's not by choice. Well, maybe some are, but some of them maybe it's just due to a family circumstance that they're moving to the valley, or they're moving to another town, or they're moving somewhere, and their families, they try to follow the family and try to keep their job. But how do we expand? What type of program do we have with NTU that they can continue to succeed, or to do their endeavors to get a degree into law enforcement or the criminal field? So those are just some of my questions there. So, Madam Chair, thank you. Go on mute.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair Otto. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor back over to Dr. Bowman, Mr. Jeffrey, and also Lieutenant Key.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Council Delegates. Council Delegate, Vice President, so you have some good questions and things that we have been discussing as we try to build a solid program. One of the concerns that we have is that we need to start with our young people and introducing them to careers in law enforcement. But what they're not really understanding is the commitment of character. That character oftentimes weeds out our brightest students who want a career as a police officer, who want to go into law enforcement at whatever level. And sometime between their young age and the time that they're able to apply for the police academy, they have gotten into trouble, had a poor credit record. There's all kinds of things that prevent them from succeeding in actually accessing a career in law enforcement. Those are the kinds of things that we are talking about as a team between the police department and NTU to try to build those, utilizing the dual credit program that we have with our local high schools, creating that mentorship program to where a law enforcement professional is paired up with serious students who really truly want to have that career. We have a mentorship that follows them once they graduate from high school, that they don't have opportunity to mess up their lives by getting into any kind of nonsense. They have a peer from the law enforcement that is working right with them, with their families, to make sure that they are encouraged to continue to stay on a solid path towards the time that they actually are going to apply for the police academy. And I think those are efforts that we need to make. And working with our guidance counselors at the high school, the other question that we had was, as we were discussing this, is, we really need to ask our students, how important is a career in law enforcement to you? We can create all of these things for our children, but will they take advantage of it? And so we want to go to the source, which is through our high school guidance counselors, to ask our students those kinds of questions. And so they're going, our dual credit coordinator is devising a survey along with Mr. Jeffries to ask those questions of our students at the high schools that we work with under the dual credit program, because we're prepared to develop the pipeline, the pathway to get them to the police academy, and helping with the funding part of it, because it takes a burden off of our students if they start in their freshman year in high school and go all the way to their senior year, that they have taken the credit, the college credits necessary to start on their academic career as a college student. The burden of paying for that is taken from us by the dual credit funding that is available to them. So we get them on that pipeline. The Navajo Nation Scholarship Office has done the set aside for the police academy, so that we have supports there so that they have the funding to get through and access the program. As far as NTU, we also have in this upcoming semester have offered the CARES tuition grant for our recruits. Mr. Jeffries has done a really good job of working directly with all the recruits, filling out their paperwork, getting them to access their careers as NTU college students. They may not ever want to complete the program, the degree beyond the certificate, but we have them already on a track, a pathway. They can say 2 years after they're a police officer, you know what, I want to go back to college. That first year has already been taken care of in the police academy. They have already received their paperwork. They're on file with the university, and all we need to do is say, okay, let's reactivate your account here, and let's get you moving on to the next level. Making sure that we have cleared as many of the blocks that are facing all of us as Navajo people. Making sure that we look at outside funding agencies that can support them through scholarships. And we really want our best and brightest, and our students are out there hungry for these kinds of opportunities. And we just want to make sure that we're creating the right opportunities for them. And I just think that it's got to be a pathway beginning when they're young and taking them all the way through. You mentioned the retention part of it. I'm going to turn it over to Donnie to talk about, what is the police department prepared to do for the retention and to incentivize our cadets to keep going, and officers when they are in the trenches. How do they continue to keep going in accessing education to see something beyond just being an officer? Those are good questions. Donnie?
Yes, and so the current programs, as far as outreach is concerned, we're actually quite limited. And I from our end, we've done a really poor job of engaging young people previous to engaging in the conversations with the folks from NTU, primarily because of manpower being what it is. The ability to run programs in schools and get in schools. And so I think there is real value in engaging young people as early on as we can. I've seen it work successfully. I did some work a number of years ago on the side for a company that contracted to Dow Chemical, which is the largest chemical company in the world. They had a philosophy in which they would recruit people directly from high school, pay for their college, and then give them jobs. And the result of that is they would have lifelong employees. They had the ability to go out and recruit from high school, provide college degrees to these folks for whatever their interests were, whether they were going to be engineers or people that are dealing with chemists. But in the end, they ended up with lifelong employees that were working for the company 30, 40 years. And so I think there's real value in engaging young people. How we do that exactly, I'm not entirely sure. And so we've had some success in social media and engaging things. The problem with outreach programs is they're very manpower intensive, and if they're not done correctly, they are not sustainable over the long period. And so I would say that anything that we're going to look on in the future, we would probably view under the microscope of, number one, the cost benefit of it, as well as the long-term sustainability of programs. One of those programs that we had mentioned, and I know that in a commander's meeting, my bosses, I report directly to the deputy chief and the chief of police, have mentioned the possibility of creating a community service officer or police service aide type transitional program, a program that was very successful for us in Farmington, in which we were able to bring somebody on directly out of high school at 18 years old, provide them some training, so a mini academy of sorts, where they were able to take cold calls, cold reports, non-injury related accidents, and gain a lot of the skills necessary to be successful to be a police officer. And the transitional program itself was designed to help these young people start their careers and then eventually transition into the role of a police officer and attend a police academy shortly after their 21st birthday, or right around, if they were 20 and a half, they could enter the academy, because they would be graduating the academy after they were 21. And this allowed them to get hands-on training in advance of preparing them. And so those people were normally very successful. What does that look like? What kind of program does that look like for us on Navajo? I don't know just yet. We haven't really delved into the ability to do that, but it's certainly something that we could do. I think there is huge benefit to the community that we could do if we did explore that path. But I'm learning quite a bit about Navajo Nation government since I've been here since May, and one of those things is creating positions. And so creating positions is uniquely challenging here on Navajo, and so that would be something that would be probably left to my bosses to be able to do. But there's real value in all of it. As far as the existing officers and incentive programs for them to continue their educations, NTU, I don't think that they have spoken about the possibility of grandfathering people in under the current program in order to provide them college credits, as well as continuing their undergraduate degrees beyond the academy. NTU has shown that they are fully committed in their work to do that. And so working in conjunction with the Navajo Nation Scholarship Office to get those officers who are already officers the ability to obtain their undergraduate degrees is something that is possible through NTU. And so I would like to give Mr. Jeffrey an opportunity to add to these answers to these questions as it relates to grandfathering additional officers, and then how are officers going to be seeking additional schooling beyond the academy. And so I would give some time to Mr. Jeffrey, Madam Chair.
Mr. Jeffrey, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lieutenant Key, and thank you, Madam Chair. So yes, as Lieutenant Key mentioned, NTU police officers who have completed the academy, those who completed the academy during the tenure of NTU and NPD's partnership can continue their education pretty much seamlessly. Again, they have the first full year of college completed by completing the police academy. And once they earn the certificate in law enforcement, they are able to then continue their education towards the Associate of Arts in Criminal Justice. And then we are currently creating the curriculum and planning documents for a Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminology and the Administration of Justice, which I mentioned earlier. Additionally to that, NPD has asked, and I've been directed by Dr. Bowman to work on creating a pathway for those Navajo police officers who completed the academy before the NTU NPD partnership, either through Arizona Post or through the old police academy in Toye. Because of accreditation standards, that is a process that is still ongoing, and that will need eventual approval first from the university. There's several hurdles that our accreditor requires the university, a lot of review that the university does for a program like that. And then if once it is approved by the Board of Regents, it would need to go to the Higher Learning Commission. But that is something that we are currently working on, and that will allow Navajo police officers who have already graduated from the academy to earn those credits pretty seamlessly, and then continue on towards an associate's or bachelor's degree, just as a regular college student. So those are things that are in the works, and some of that will take a little bit of time, but we are making steady progress. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Mr. Jeffrey. So with that, committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time? Not hearing.
Madam Chair.
Honorable Eugene, so go ahead.
See, so yeah. In this day and age, and tomorrow, and next week, maybe next year, and on, how good are we ready with training our police officers? According to what's going on out there now, there's no turning back. Or are we training them the same as was before? Regards to weapons, explosives, any way of thinking, terrorism, etc. These are happening now. And are we ready? Someday, maybe tomorrow, we're going to be attacked. Are we ready now? I would like to ask that, what kind of training are you guys going to give? More college-wise, university-wise, to get their credits to be more efficient against our other generation, same ages. They're all out there now. They're ready to go against their own brothers and sisters, mom and dads. That's where we're headed. How are we going to stop that? And are we ready? And I'm just afraid for my younger generation. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Shija Delegate Eugene. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to the presenters, Dr. Bowman, Mr. Jeffrey, and Lieutenant Key.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. I just want to make sure that I understand the question. How ready are we, and how prepared are we to train our officers with all of the things that are happening in the modern world as we're going down this path where our our world is changing. So how prepared are we? If that's the question, I can answer from the academic side. We are prepared to equip our students with a blend of Diné philosophies in learning, how they apply what they learn in theory, melded with traditional thought processes, because that's our foundation here at Navajo Technical University, making sure that they have all of the classes and the knowledge to survive the technology changes that our young people, our students are required to utilize in the world, making sure that they are exposed to those kinds of elements. Now, as far as the actual training of the officers, I will leave that response up to Mr. Key, so that he can share what kinds of programs that they have when they actually get into the academy to prepare them for this changing world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bowman. Does that conclude your answering of Delegate Eugene So's question?
Yes.
Thank you for that. Shaja?
Oh, sure. I believe that young lady can speak Navajo too. So, one really important question that holds up the whole show around the world. And it's the reason why we're spending all the money and try to get ready to fight each other once and one against each other. That's what's been happening on the Navajo Nation. A lot of complaints against our own family. So, in that regards, where are we? Because the Navajo way of life, let's see what the academic is training when you or with your mom, your grandma, they teach emotional, the spiritual, and physical growth all in harmony. All in harmony means you don't have to act like a little child when you reach 30 years old and you're a doctor. Go back to 7 or 6 years old or 4 years old. The jealousy, anger, etc. All the negative. So that's how Navajo was supposed to be trained a while back. We got away from there. Right now, we only educate them academically. We can only learn from the books, not by living it. We can't have that no more, because we all live in the housings or dorms, etc., or somewhere in the municipal. So those are some of the real important. That's the whole life. And I always think that if we could only teach our young kids, and then we won't have a lot of crime on the Navajo Nation or even elsewhere, the United States. I guess that's what they call it, democracy, also a little bit of it. And our Constitution is taking care of each other. But nowadays, we don't have that no more. So that's my part of the question that I asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaja. So with that, presenters, Dr. Bowman, Mr. Jeffrey, Lieutenant Keith.
Honorable Delegate Charles Newton and committee members, I think that council is asking some very, very difficult questions to respond to with regard to how do we teach our young people how to really be Navajo, how to remember how to be Navajo and what that truly looks like. We have so many issues facing our families, facing one another. And I agree with what you're saying in your observations that it is a changing society that we've grown into. How do we stop and change the tide? Little baby steps is all I can think of, because you said I should be able to talk Navajo. Dinepazad bohosha. I'm trying to learn. It's difficult if it's not something you were raised with every day. And yet we see that we're hungry and we want to know that of ourselves. How do we teach our children those things? I'm so fortunate to work at NTU because that's the foundation that we try to instill in every single one of our academic programs. How do you connect what you're teaching these students to the world of Navajo? How do you teach them those things that are of value to our society? So we rely a lot on one another to ask those kinds of questions, to hold one another accountable. But again, it goes back to the students. If they don't know and they don't understand and they discount it and they don't want to know, then there's nothing we can do to make that change, but just keep telling the same stories of what it means to be Navajo, what that means, what that looks like, what that balance of Hojon, what does that mean? How do you carry that through everything that you're doing, not just as a student, but when you graduate and you get into the real world? Not just the students, our faculty, we as professionals. So teaching that Diné philosophy, we can only do so much with it. And I'm fortunate that I work in a place that holds dear to those tenets of Diné philosophy of living, not just of learning, of living. That's how we're supposed to live. So we can do our part, but we have to start young. We have to make sure that it starts from the home to help support the families, to teach and to know these things. But it's a big, big challenge. And we can do our part as a university. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bowman. So with that, committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time?
Madam Chair, I got a question. I got a comment here.
Vice Chair Aruso, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the comment that Dr. Bowman has alluded to. And it is true. And I always say this on the council floor. When you really want, when people say, I understand the Navajo way of life. But you know, a lot of it, it's really not taught well because the home life. And that Navajo way of life, it's not about what ceremonies you know or what denomination of church you go to. It's more of the living. Because kiji nahaki ate dobe kiji tin hotsada nan de nan lini asashia ko hanaya chfaina hand the nedo kiji the dog kisa. Each home has a different path of living. You have the people that work very, very hard to try to succeed, but at times the stars don't align for them. You have another class. Our own, people in the poor sector, all the way up to the middle class, and what we call, I guess, Navajo rich people. I don't know, but what I'm getting to is that the Nado is okay. And that those homes out there have different values. And that ties into what Honorable Eugene So speaks to, and what I speak to. A lot of the issues of the criminal issues and the I guess the social issues that go on the Navajo Nation is based off of the home life. If those values are not taught at age, those children there will not understand those values, and they will take a whole different road. Those values, they're giving the system a hard time. The revolving door at each of the tribal jails. The social issue of alcoholism. The social issue of drugs. And many other factors. And I really, really commend Dr. For pointing that out, because it all starts from the home. And these values there that families are supposed to instill into their kids so that they could be decent human beings out there. I have 2 boys, and I always tell them that. I really don't care what you become in life. You can become a dishwasher, but just be a decent human being. Oh, the basic things. And those things like that really carry out a lot of things that, behavior. Children is all about monkey see, monkey do. Whatever the mother and father does at home, whether it's drinking, if the mother and father argues and they fight, those values, that they really look at them and they say, oh, that's what my mom did. That's what my dad did to my mom. Or that's what my mom did to my dad, and I'm going to do it. The monkey see, monkey do scenario. Oh, I really, really appreciate the doctor for bringing up those issues, because in order to understand the Navajo way of life, you can speak it all you want. You can talk it. But if you never walk the walk and talk the talk on Navajo way of life, you'll never understand it. The better the basic things at homes, fixing the sheep corral, finding the balance between animal and the human life and so forth. Oh, what's up? I understand. Navajo scenario of Pushon is not all beauty. There's bad to it. There's good to it. That's like the Navajo yin and yang. And that's where a lot of the values and the fundamental thinking and the fundamental teaching comes from. The doctor from NTU, Dr. Bowman, and I really, really, again, appreciate the thought and your thinking of the values. and Anitn, Nte Boho Hajo Boho Do Hajo Aja Sada Ketna Nile Boho on Leni Bistan. I always tell my sons, you can't say you can't. You have 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, and 2 feet, and you have a mind that can think for yourself. And then later, then Tagonda Kato, which in the has it open the has Dolato has just able and Jagala Shitans and Ade Tahanasti. They think we are very lucky. And every Navajo citizen is able. In just case, the do I Nasha. Later than Nashta, Skiajo, Ade, Atletin, Sisom, Yana, Zasito. Had it other, Kato, had it other, if he's not in trouble or anything, I still get home and say, son, come over and talk to you. Inni Hutsa, Shiabania Kisande, the university student, NAU, spoke to him, even though he wasn't in trouble. And give him a little pep talk and tell him to be a decent human being. No one liquid, nado, but the gun, and nasty dogs aren't able to net. And now, I can't get in contact. It's so it's all tattooed up. But my Heshash, Bejashi, and instant only. I don't think I have none enough of this. As it was, I don't. I don't eat down. I did cut for those. Sasaho, Sanona, start for dinner. Even now. I really appreciate these values that into you and even with the police department. You have a certain value system that your mission statement has. We really appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. Are there any other comments or questions at this time for any of the delegates who are listening in or who are on the committee? Not hearing anything. I'm going to go ahead. Honorable, so go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for the report today. I just say thank you very much. That's what we need forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. So with that, committee members, since there's no other questions or comments, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor back over to the presenters, Dr. Bowman, Mr. Jeffrey, and Lieutenant Key.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and committee for giving us the opportunity to share an update of what we're doing to create a better world for our Navajo people through the law enforcement. We look forward to the next meeting when you request us to do another update, and perhaps we can share all of the other work that we are trying to do to build a strong society. Lieutenant Key?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank you as well as all the committee members here who allowed us to come and address you today. I also, in particular, would like to thank Council Delegate So, both Ottawa So and Eugene So, as well as Council Delegate Vince James for their wisdom that they shared with us today. I heard a lot of good words spoken today, and I really, really appreciate them sharing that with us, as well as the eloquent way in which they were put out. And I appreciate you also, Madam Chair, for your leadership and your wisdom as well. And like I said, I extend an invitation to everyone. We're out here at the Academy. Come and have a cup of coffee with us and see what's going on. I'm really excited for what the future holds for us as an agency, as a nation, to be able to provide for ourselves, especially with this regional regional training academy that we might have the possibility of expanding due to our ability to work with Department of Corrections. I need to thank them as well for their ability to work with us to provide the training facility that we're going to be utilizing as far as their old correctional facility here in Chinle, and the expansion of the academy to include corrections and dispatchers eventually. And so I really want to just extend my thank yous to everyone, to include my fellow presenters. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lieutenant Key. So with that, committee members, oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Bowman, were you going to speak? I apologize.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to give Mr. Jeffries an opportunity to speak to the group. And also, I just wanted to say thank you for your leadership, your commitment. All of you who are council delegates, we need to say thank you. And we don't do that enough. So thank you very much for leading us. Mr. Jeffries.
Mr. Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I would also like to extend my thanks and also just tell you what a wonderful group of people that you have working out at the Navajo Police Training Academy. It is under excellent hands with Lieutenant Key. He is a wonderful leader with a great background in law enforcement and a good understanding, of course, of the Navajo Nation, and his sergeants, his command staff out there with him. They are working very hard every single day to advance the safety and security of the Navajo Nation. And so I want you to just know how fortunate and blessed the nation is to have Lieutenant Key and his staff out there working for you. And also thank you again for your wisdom and for all of us the chance to serve the Navajo Nation to advance its interests and protect its citizens. I very much appreciate it. Madam Chair.
Madam Chair. Are you still on the line, Madam Chair? Mr. Jeffrey, can you send the document again? I haven't received it yet.
I did forward it, but I will send it again.
Okay, L. Spencer at Navajo-nsn.gov. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you once again, presenters, committee members, delegates who are on the line. Are there any other questions or comments at this time regarding the report that has been provided to us today? Not hearing anything, we're going to go ahead and we're going to proceed forward to accept the report. We do have a motion made by Honorable Vince James, a second by Honorable Eugene So. Sherelle, can you assist us with the roll call vote, please?
Okay, Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Vote is okay.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting, which is including Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting and Honorable Edmund Yazzie not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, committee members, the report that has been provided to us here by Lieutenant Key on behalf of Jesse Delmar, the Executive Director for Division of Public Safety, and then Dr. Bowman and Mr. Jeffrey on behalf of Elmer J. Guy, President for the Navajo Technical University, regarding the MOU for the Police Academy and classes counted towards the degree in academy. The report has been accepted with a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting. So with that, the report is hereby accepted. We appreciate the presenters. Dr. Bowman, Mr. Jeffrey, and Lieutenant Key, you're excused at this time. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So with that, committee members, we now proceed forward to item number 6 on the agenda, old business. There is none. Item number 7, new business. We are at the new business A. There has been a request coming from Honorable Eugene So, Council Delegate from Chinle Chapter, for the Law and Order Committee to meet at Chinle Chapter in January of 2022. Before we begin the discussion, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second at this time so that we can discuss this request.
Vice Chair, motion.
Motion made by Honorable Otto So. Can I get a second?
Oh,
Honorable Eugene So seconds. So with that, committee members, are there any questions at this time? No date has been selected, but for January, I don't think, so we're scheduled to meet the 10th, the 17th, I'm sorry, the 10th. The 17th is Martin Luther King Day, so I don't think that that we meet on that day. So we're going to have to more than likely push that that day in lieu of the 17th. We may have to push it to the 3rd and then the 24th. So again, Law and Order Committee will most likely meet on the 3rd because of the 17th being a holiday. Definitely the 10th and the 24th. So with that, committee members, are there any suggestions on what day we can meet with Chinle Chapter regarding Law and Order?
Madam Chair, is there a winter session somewhere?
Yes, I do apologize. Yes, you are correct, Honorable Eugene. So I believe that winter council session is going to be the last week in January, which is the week of January 24th. I'm looking just to double check.
Madam Chair, this is Lorraine.
Yeah. Oh, it's the 4th Monday of January. So yes, it would be the 24th through the 28th. So I think we're going to have Law and Order Committee then on January 3rd, January 10th, and then January 31st. Yes, Lorraine, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say that January 24th was the winter session that whole week. I forgot to put it down on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. So with that, committee members, again, we are looking to be meeting at 10 o'clock on January 3rd. That will be a special meeting. On January 10th will be a regular meeting. And then January 31st will also be a special meeting.
Madam Chair, should say, 31st,
Yes.
you got this $8 to get my chapter all ready up. Because I had to give, they had to give time to them when the RDC is coming over this Wednesday. So it kind of took them time to get everything ready for them. So 31st, I think, is $1.
Okay, so with that, Delegate Eugene So has requested that the Law and Order Committee meet in Chinle on January 31st, 2022. Are there any questions, comments, or anything that needs to be said at this time regarding this suggestion for the date? Okay, not hearing anything. Let's go ahead and proceed forward to the vote. Sherelle, can you make sure that the agenda, or Sherelle and Lorraine, make sure that the agenda states January 31st, 2022, and that will be Law and Order Committee meeting in Chinle. Sherelle, can you assist us with the roll call vote, please?
Madam
Yes.
Chair, excuse me, it's going to be at the chapter house.
Okay,
Okay. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate Chan votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Vote to share.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote? Honorable Ottoso, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Ottoso votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and 2 not voting, which is including Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting and Honorable Edmund Yazzie not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. So with that, committee members, we are now moving down to item number 8, close of the meeting. Before I call for a motion to adjourn, are there any announcements?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
not, but I couldn't bother me here.
Go ahead, Delegate Eugene. Delegate Eugene, so?
Oh, excuse me. Auditor General, the option to me at us, lahat minute ayo, asin, tekalit o to hasan kitwom. So, so that the report does me say where it's at now. You know, that it is called. Akit aliyada. So, ayada. There's a baho can as for the next and the nita. That's a balance what they have and what they got in their bank. Yeah, thank you.
Delegate Eugene, so can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Okay, great, because my screen says connecting to audio. I wasn't sure. Delegate Eugene, so that should have been added to the agenda as a discussion topic, but it wasn't added to the agenda. So Lorraine, can we go ahead next week? I know we're going to be in Old J12 next week. Can we go ahead and add this item to the agenda regarding the break into the Auditor General's office and then also Division of Community Development? Can we add that to the agenda for next week?
Okay, Madam Chair, I'll add them on.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. Honorable Eugene, so we'll add that to the agenda for next week. Ashpiga.
Oh, my bed is going out.
Okay, so with that, committee members, well, since the Honorable Eugene So's battery is going out, I do just want to announce that on Wednesday we have our Title 17 meeting, and then next week Law and Order Committee meeting is scheduled in Old Jetpo. So just as a reminder. So with that, committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
This is Lorraine. That meeting will be held at Monument Valley Visitor Center.
Okay, we'll send us the information.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thank you.
So with that, committee members, we're going to go ahead and proceed forward. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn?
Do so.
Motion made by
Second
Honorable
by Vice Chair.
Second by Honorable Vice Chair Otto So. So with that, committee members, we're going to go ahead and proceed forward to the vote. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please?
Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting, which is including Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton not voting and Honorable Edmund Yazzie not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, committee members, it is now 2:35. We are hereby adjourned. You guys be safe out there, and we will see you all in Old J12 next week. Thank you.